past few months, a lot of people been capitulating to Trump.
Oh, and let me emphasize, few months.
Yes, last few months.
It
felt like a lifetime.
Very few. 2 months.
It felt like a lifetime, but we've had many people from universities to journalists to publications just all capitulating to Trump, obeying in advance.
University of Michigan just got rid of DEI.
Exactly.
That's crazy. You know who didn't? MSU.
University of Michigan caved into Trump. We got lawyers offering like tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in pro bono services to the Trump administration, as if they don't have an army of lawyers already. And we have another installment in the just completely given up the game.
Do tell.
A saga. And this one has to do with the District of Columbia.
Okay. Washington, D.C.
Once thought of as a haven for liberal indoctrination.
Yeah.
Wokeness.
Yeah.
Critical race theory.
Yeah.
That D.C. has been, or I guess is now a husk of what it used to be. And I've got a story here, and the headline is, quote, "It's now a hate crime to vandalize Teslas in D.C."
D.C.?
Yeah.
In D.C.? Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Is this because they got all their funding taken away?
I think this is just another installment in the saga of we're capitulating to Trump in advance.
Maybe if we make it a hate crime to vandalize Teslas, then somehow we'll get the billions of dollars that Mike Johnson took from us.
Yeah, as we all know, there's been a lot of people just like going around vandalizing Teslas, just spray painting like heinous remarks on them or whatever.
Which is like funny because it's like, this is liberal on liberal violence. You know what I mean? Like if you're going around and vandalizing a Model 3, it's not a conservative that owns a Model 3. You know what I'm saying? Or at least the chances of you coming across the one lone conservative in the wild that's got just a Tesla and loves electric charging, low.
Teslas or conservatives got the Cybertruck.
They got the Cybertruck,
but even then, it's like a very small, like specific sample of conservatives.
It's like the tech guys, kind of. You know what I mean? But it's like your Model 3s, dog. That's your liberal neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. And now this is again just the latest installment in the saga of people just completely capitulating to Trump. We all know that people have been vandalizing Teslas, vandalizing Tesla vehicles, drawing all kinds of symbols on them. And that is undeniably vandalism, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get charged with a crime for doing that.
Don't do it, or do it at your own risk.
Like, I'm not going to make the argument that isn't a crime. It very clearly is a crime. But in this instance, and we're talking about D.C. specifically, there were some police reports filed where people were spray painting things on Tesla vehicles, such as, quote, "Let's do away with the administrative state, buy a Tesla. I like what Elon Musk is doing. Go Doge. I support Musk killing the Department of Education. Ask me about my support of Nazis, and I love Musk and hate the federal government." That's the examples here in these police reports.
That's even funnier because it's liberal on liberal violence.
It's liberal on liberal violence.
That makes it funnier.
Yeah, but the thing here is that the police announced that they're going to be investigating these as hate crimes.
For something to be a hate crime, who are we like hate criming here? I thought hate crimes were like specifically based on immutable characteristics.
Well, I was going to say that there's a quote in this article where it says, as it happens, the District of Columbia is one of the rare jurisdictions that lists political affiliation alongside race, sex, and religion as categories of bias. However, political hate crimes based on political affiliation have rarely ever been tried in DC.
DC would fucking do that though,
and
wouldn't
it usually has to do with refusing to provide services to someone that says like they're a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with like vandalism, right? That's not like a political hate crime. Also, political hate crime shouldn't be a category of crime.
Yeah,
but.
I'm not going to bake a wedding cake for a Republican. Let's go.
Right, that would be an example of that. But like this isn't a hate crime. This is just DC caving to Trump and Musk.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, you hate to see it.
You
really do hate to see it. Goddamn hate. I expect this from the conservatives, frankly. From the liberals.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I expect this to be like a piece of legislation introduced by a Republican trying to win favor.
Yeah.
With the regime.
Like Rick Scott.
But DC, like quote unquote hyper liberal DC, socialist DC, shouldn't be the ones doing this.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Once again, it's been another week.
Oh, yeah.
Been another long week. And you know what? This time, it's been a week that personally bent us over.
Oh, my goodness.
Considering that the biggest news story of the week, maybe even the month, drops on Monday.
Yeah, and you know, I wish this wasn't the biggest story because there's some real heinous shit that Trump's been doing.
Yeah.
That deserves far more attention. But the group chat story,
is funny.
Good from many angles.
It's crazy.
I'll say that much.
But it would have been better if it dropped on a Thursday, I will say.
Yeah, it would have been much better if it dropped on a Thursday. Unfortunately, it dropped a few hours after
Probably like 12 hours
recording.
after we finished.
Very upsetting. But this week, we're going to be talking about the group chat. We're going to be talking about woke museums.
Woke museums.
We're going to be talking about conservatives and due process.
And we're going to be talking about various bills that have been passed in conservative states.
Yeah, but lo and behold, we have a lot to cover this week. So we'll get through the typical administrative topics real quick. We'll let you know, of course, that if you become a patron, early access to all the content and help support the show. We'd really appreciate that. All of our links are in the description if you want to, follow us or get 40% off on Ground News. It's all down there.
It's pretty good.
You can find it in the description. Also, we are still in the progress of accepting submissions for our community art contest.
We are.
We've gotten a few already.
And they're good.
And after April 11th, which is when this voting form is going to close, or the submission form is going to close, then we will compile them, find some finalists, and then you all will vote on who is immortalized forever.
In the Hiddo studio.
In the studio, yeah.
Wow.
So that's down in the description. The form is still open. You need a Google sign-in to use it. But if you got something to submit, go ahead and do it. Make sure you read the rules.
If you got something to say, go say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it. Come on now.
Another great way to support the show is leave a 5-star review on Apple, and we have only one today.
Only one?
A meager one.
Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. But this one's from Jackson93847493.
It's like they see us feast and want us to famine.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. 5 stars from my favorite white boys. Jackson says, first and foremost, I condemn Hamas and all acts of political violence. I found my 2 favorite white boys from mid-Michigan on TikTok last year and have been a Wednesday weenie ever since, but I'm hoping to arise to a Sunday supremacist soon. I became politically conscious in high school, and politics has been my main hobby since. I was able to convert my now wife into being a lib a few weeks into dating, so another vote for the good guys. But it's more than a hobby to me now. I'm a poor mixed race kid from West Texas in the middle of the most Republican city in the state. Abilene, I think is how you say that, where I live in secret as a raging leftist. My dad's a federal worker of more than 20 years who has received every single harassing email by Elon, Doge, and the OMB. So I am grateful for my 2 favorite white boys for keeping me up to date so I can be prepared for what comes next. #1 geopolitical podcast, #1 local news podcast.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up, being in that position.
Oh, yeah. That's tough being in Texas. We got a lot of listeners from Texas.
We do.
I don't know why.
In Texas.
But
Texas loves Hiddo.
Shout out Texas listeners. Thanks for leaving that review. If you want your review read, you know where to go. Apple Podcast, 5-star review. We'll read it here on the show.
We could probably do better in Texas than Beto O'Rourke.
So true. Beto O'Rourke came back to the surface recently. Did you see that?
I saw something that he did, but I kind of ignored what he said.
I think he was talking about the Doge cuts or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It was something. I mean, he was doing something. I think he's gearing up to run for something, I guess.
Him and John James, 2 sides of the same coin.
Oh, my. Don't even get me started.
2 sides of the same coin.
Anyways, I think it's time we get into the show here with the biggest story so far.
We got war plans before GTA 6. Yeah. We got war plans in the group chat before Grand Theft Auto 6 came out.
It doesn't make sense, man.
It doesn't make any sense, people. And unfortunately, like I said before, the news cycle did its thing this past week, once again, victimizing us.
Yeah.
Lowly podcasters who have done nothing wrong. I'd like to add, except stick to a schedule.
Done only things right.
Stick to a schedule.
Yeah, we're being punished.
Consistent.
We're being punished for consistency.
I thought they wanted us to have a routine, but I digress. Whatever. I think we've all seen what happened. We're quite literally a week late to this story, so.
Yeah, one benefit of not covering it immediately is we got all the details now.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about anything developing as we continue. The story kind of came and went, and we're going to drag it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we do around here, folks. So, like I said, I think everybody's aware of what's happening. So, I shouldn't have to get into too much detail, but we will. And I just kind of like to preface this all by saying I should never have to say group chat and war plans and leak when talking about the United States federal government.
That's what I'm saying.
This is a level of absurdity that I did not think we would ever be at before.
If you are high up in the federal government of the largest empire in the history of the world, you don't get to make mistakes that I would make.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what you don't get to make mistakes that me and my homies would make.
I don't want to hear the guy who's about to bomb Yemen say, "Hey, bro, hop in the GC."
Yeah.
Hey, bro, did you see my message?
I should not see fist emoji, U.S. flag emoji, fire emoji. God.
And that's the worst part of it all.
Chat.
That's the worst part of it all from the National Security Advisor. War plans group chat is for frat guys vacationing in Florida for spring break, trying to figure out what bars to hit. That is not for bombing Yemen. That is not for killing people. Straight up,
It's unacceptable. And I'm not even that big of a NatSec guy.
I'm not.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care that much about like the Pentagon and national security and stuff like that beyond like, you know, layman's terms.
Yeah.
But like this shit is crazy.
It is.
From a layman's perspective, this shit is crazy.
And like I've never spent time thinking about how people, when they're planning these sort of things, shouldn't be doing it on specific apps because they could be compromised, blah blah blah, or whatever. But now I got to.
Yeah, no, I don't give a shit about the Presidential Records Act.
I'm saying,
I genuinely,
brother.
I literally do not care. But this is such just a ham-handed thing to do.
Yeah,
like this is just it's utter incompetence. It is so stupid.
I should only ever have to hear about the Espionage Act and the Federal Records Act in passing when conservatives, I don't know, try to throw it against like liberals for some stupid shit. Hillary Clinton emails. When Hillary Clinton does the emails, that's when I should have to hear about this. I shouldn't have to hear about this in an actual like serious situation.
And like this
from
is
the Trump admin.
This is the same level as the Hillary email stuff.
It is. It's not low-key worse.
The accusations were Hillary was sending private state secrets via email, via her personal email.
Yeah.
And that's why like it was such a big scandal. And now we have state secrets being shared via fucking
But
Signal.
it's like she didn't send that shit to a journalist.
Yep.
And I guess that brings me into the next topic of all this. Like the big damning piece about all this is how the fuck do you just accidentally add the editor-in-chief, not even just some like random journalist, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic to the group chat without noticing.
One of the biggest newspapers in the country.
One of the biggest newspapers in the country. This newspaper charges $80 a year for you to be able to read it, and people pay it. And you accidentally added this guy to the group chat.
Yeah.
Brother.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many conservatives like Pete Hegseth and all the conservatives in the government that have commented on this have like blamed Jeffrey Goldberg for being there. And it's like, dog, you added him.
That's what I'm saying. This is your fault.
Like Mike Walz was, I think, on Fox News, and he was like, I don't know how this loser got in the group chat. It's like, brother, you added him.
That was in the interview with Laura Ingraham.
Yeah.
He said,
it's because you added him.
This fucking loser, you know, everybody makes a mistake. You know, you go to type in one Jeffrey, you get the other Jeffrey, and add him to the fucking let's go kill people chat. That's not a mistake you get to make. I'm sorry.
Like, it's especially damning for Mike Waltz, the guy who made the group chat. But it's damning for like the 20 other people who were in there.
Oh, it's damning for like every single person involved because of how they reacted. Like the way that everybody could not get their shit together for the first day and either tried to like lie by omission about classified documents being in there or just straight up call it a hoax like Pete Hegseth, which we'll get into a little bit, is just it was a sight to behold.
Yeah,
really. That was a story in of itself.
I don't want to bite the flow because I know we're going to get into each of like the narratives, but there were like 3 distinct narratives and explanations for what happened that cannot be true at the same time that were being shared by different people on the same day last week. It was absurd.
Goofy.
Yeah.
This is so fucking goofy, dude. It's so goofy that like by his own admission, Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, said he did not think that the group chat was real until he actually saw news that we bombed Yemen. Brother.
And like a lot of people have been shitting on Goldberg, and for reasons we'll explain, there might be some legitimacy there, but I don't blame him for not thinking it was real.
I don't blame him for that either. I'd have thought the same thing.
If I got added to a group chat out of nowhere and people were talking about striking Yemen, I would be like, okay.
If I get added to a fucking group chat and one of the first messages I see is 4:15, F-15s take off, 4:30, first payload delivered, I think that spam has evolved past telling me a USPS package is here.
I was going to say, like, with the prevalence of spam nowadays, I can sort of understand it. But at the same time, he is like a journalist.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot of people in D.C. have his number. So maybe he should have been more aware of this possibility. But, like, this has never happened before.
Yeah, that's not where, like, the damning part comes in. And honestly, like, even in hindsight, now that we're a week out from the fucking story breaking, I don't think too much of what he did is crazy.
Yeah.
Considering that he did eventually release the full, like, thing.
Well, and the craziest part was that it was behind a paywall. The Atlantic took...
You know how we feel about that.
The Atlantic took the biggest story, maybe so far, of this Trump administration, and they put it behind an $80 a year paywall.
Like, what was the headline, too? The headline was something wicked, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like Pete Hegseth or some shit added me to a group chat by accident.
Yeah, added me to, like, a war plan group chat by accident. And it's like, oh, shit, I want to read that. Oh, looks like I don't care about this story anymore.
And like genuinely a big story from the perspective of bombing Yemen.
Yeah.
But also from the perspective of like the incompetence of the administration. And they hide it behind a goddamn paywall.
And it's like you want to talk about like a foot in the door effect, you know, to get people to like give out a sample to get people to want to buy your product. Would this not be the one story, if you're going to drop one story for free, that you drop for free?
Yeah.
Maybe it would have enticed us to pick up an Atlantic subscription.
Yeah, but like when I boot up the fucking article to read it on Monday morning, whenever this shit broke and it's behind a paywall, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna listen to other people talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's fine. The news got disseminated. It was a big story. Everyone was covering it, so I got the information. But it's just annoying.
And it's like, imagine if this like wasn't as crazy as it was, and this was just like a regular kind of fuck up, that like CNN doesn't run segments on for the next week. They are really willing to leave it up to people like us to inform you about that kind of shit.
I was like,
that's why conservatives win.
It's $80 a year.
Yeah.
Like, what normal person is paying $80 a year
to read The Atlantic?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. That shit annoyed me.
It's fucked up. But like speaking to Jeffrey, Big Jeff, and what he did and how there's some controversy around that. Yeah, he eventually did release everything, and I feel like that kind of absolved him from a lot. But I think the biggest issue with how he handled this entire situation is that he left the group chat.
Yeah.
Why are we leaving the group chat? You have just given a level of access that no other journalist has ever been given in, like, United States history.
Yeah.
You got put in on the war plans group chat.
Yeah.
And you're leaving willingly? And people tried to spin this by saying that he's, like, more responsible with the information than their actual government officials. And, like, yeah, true. But, like, this isn't your fuck up.
Yeah, if I could, like, the only defense I could see for him is that Trump has been cracking down on, like, political enemies and especially people in the news media. Yeah. Like writers and journalists and stuff, so I can sort of get his trepidation, maybe.
I think that defense comes in when it comes to whether or not he would actually release the full group chat.
Yeah, but I don't give a fuck about the argument where it's like he's being respectful of national secrets. Like, no, Doug, I don't care. Like, it's already been spilled. He's a civilian. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care about that side of it, but I do understand, like, for his own personal well-being, why he might think that the best move is to not divulge the secrets that he thought were classified.
Yeah.
And then to get out of the group chat once he realized it was real. I don't think I would have done that.
I would
but
not
I can
have left
understand why someone might think that's reasonable.
I would redact what I think is classified information before the administration comes out and says that it's not classified. Like, you know what I mean? Still releasing the story, but I'm not leaving the group chat. Because, like, imagine you're reading that fucking $80 Atlantic article, right? You mustered the courage to pay for it. You worked some overtime to be able to read.
That's a shift of news. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And at the end of that article, if everything was the same, and at the end of it you read, and I'm still in the group chat as of now.
Yeah.
Cinema.
Yeah.
Fucking Kino.
I also wonder if, like, they have new group chats for every strike that they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would guess, because it was called small group, so I'm guessing they assemble.
UDPC small group.
Yeah, I'm guessing they assemble new small groups for every, like, task that they do. So I don't know that the group chat, and it was set to vanish after 4 weeks, so I don't know if the group chat would have been, like, of enduring relevance.
This is true.
But I understand the sentiment. Like, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have left.
But it's like,
I might have just published it anonymously.
After everything that we're going to talk about in a second didn't pan out for them when it comes to running their defense, there was this sort of novel line of attack that I began to saw by some conservative commentators. And I just want to read you this headline from The Hill. It's an opinion column. It says,
cool.
Was the Atlantic's Goldberg wrong in not immediately leaving the chat? You know,
right, man.
You know who this is by?
Who?
Jeffrey Epstein defense attorney Alan Dershowitz. The man responsible for getting Jeffrey Epstein off in like 2006 in his like first case.
That's crazy.
Wrote an op-ed criticizing Goldberg, saying that it was a violation of journalistic ethics, whatever those are, to fucking stay in the group chat.
Man,
that he never should have been in there.
Oh my God.
It's a violation of journalistic ethics to report the biggest fuck up, one of the biggest fuck ups of the administration so far.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, did Gage abandon his academic integrity by not reminding the teacher that we have homework?
Maybe I did.
Why does this dude think he's relevant still? He should be locked up.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly, man. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I had to take that side note to talk about it. The man, the myth, the legend, Alan Dershowitz.
The Dersh, man.
We don't talk about him enough. Frankly, nobody should be talking about him, but if he's going to get out there and put himself out there,
he's genuinely a freak.
We got a box in the marketplace of ideas.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, man, it's just, this is fucked up. So after the article released, naturally, the administration goes into damage control. National security officials pretty much immediately confirmed that the chat was real.
Yeah.
And everyone except Pete Hegseth got the memo.
Yeah. And I got a clip here of him on the tarmac. There were a couple of moments where he was on the tarmac because I think he was on a trip.
Yeah.
And he's like responding to interviewers as they come up to him, and he's repeatedly denying this, like you said, at the same time when people have already confirmed that it's real. But this was my favorite moment. I think this was like Tuesday after the story broke, so before Goldberg released like the entire text log.
And I think he had just like landed in Hawaii.
Yeah, something like that. So I think we should take a listen to this. Fair warning, though, it is like he's on the tarmac, so it's next to
windy audio.
A running airplane, I think.
Classic.
So it's kind of super loud, but I think we should listen to this and hear out Pete Hegseth.
Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning, out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
And I quite literally, they said what? They used like Reaper MQ. I don't fucking know military.
No, he's just lying. There were coordinates in the group chat.
Yeah, there are coordinates in the group chat.
Explicitly lying.
They talk about targets, although they don't explicitly say like the name of targets.
Yeah.
They talk about the fucking weapons that they're going to use to send them. They talk about the times that they're going to send them. I saw another reporter ask, or maybe it was a congressperson, like a congressional hearing, ask him like straight up, like, have the Houthis been able to shoot down X jet? And people are like, yeah, they actually have been able to. So it's like there is the reasonable assumption that if this would have leaked, if this would have come out earlier, if Jeffrey Goldberg releases this as soon as he gets it, that the Houthis could have killed whoever was coming in to like bomb them. And that would be on Pete Hegseth. Like there is no world where the nature of the information shared in this chat should not have been classified, even if it originally was not classified, which it was. This is just a lie to cover his ass.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course they're saying, oh, it wasn't classified because they would have gotten in trouble if they shared classified material with a civilian by accident. You know what I mean?
Fucking journalist.
Yeah, he's just lying in this clip, but I thought it was funny because he's really trying to sell that it's not a war plan.
Is that from like a clip taken from the same like interview or like pseudo press conference where he goes, yeah, this whole thing's just a fucking hoax. This whole thing's a hoax.
I think that was the one before.
By a reporter who's known to publish hoaxes, like because he did the was he the both sides guy?
He was
find people on both sides.
I think he was the find people on both sides, and I think he was the guy, the suckers and losers guy.
The suckers and losers one is what he was referring to. He's like, yeah, so he's known for publishing hoaxes, not knowing that bro's got his name associated with the message. Shit was crazy, but man, what a spin. To try and say this is one of my favorite spins that we got out of this whole thing is, when the article was originally published, it was attack plans, or it was war plans, but now it's attack plans. We caught him, boys.
They're clearly using war as just like a synonym for attack.
We fucking caught him.
Yeah.
They lied to you. Those aren't war plans. Congress hasn't declared war on Yemen despite us bombing them.
Yeah. Precise coordinates, that's not a war plan.
That's not a war plan.
And it's like, but even if like semantically he's right, it being attack plans doesn't make it much better for you. You know what I mean?
I would still argue that, attack plans, that's probably classified information as well. This is not information that should really be privy to anybody. So...
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know the military capabilities of the Houthis, but like, if they set up some surface-to-air missiles as our drones went overhead, or even, I think it was probably a drone strike, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know if it was like a manned aircraft or something like that, but like, I don't know. Things can go wrong. I'm not a military expert.
They talked about service members possibly dying, so I think it was a manned thing going on.
Yeah. So
which is like, that's bad. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Caroline Leavitt loved this one. She kept hammering home this one on press conferences as if she's making any point whatsoever. So that's good.
No, my favorite Caroline Leavitt response was not that, not like the war planes attack plane semantic, but it was that what we saw in the group chat demonstrates the strength of Pete Hegseth.
Oh my God, no, that was so good.
It was gas.
That was, she started talking about like, the most transparent administration in United States history right here.
She's right.
What this shows the American public is how efficient our fucking bureaucrats and top military advisors are when it comes to, I don't know, fucking blowing up an apartment building in Yemen. Yeah. This is actually a boon to the American people because they understand that we're running a serious operation. American flag, fist bump, fire emoji.
And it's like, it's just so clear that they had no organized response to this, because she's saying that this demonstrates our strength at the same time Pete Hegseth is saying the entire story is false.
Yeah.
Like,
no coordination.
The
same time,
you can't hold those ideas at the same time.
At the same time, national security officials are out there saying, the chat's real. This actually happened.
Yeah, you've got three, like I said, three different narratives. You've got it's not real. You've got yes, it's real, and it was a fuck up, and you've got yes, it's real, and it was a demonstration of our military strength right now.
That's so good.
It's so good. Caroline Leavitt is a talented individual for spinning that one.
She is.
Got to give it to her.
Something's got to be said about how like shamelessly she gets up there and just talks.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen someone like be able to string shit together that quickly.
I respect her for it.
Press secretary got to be a hard ass job, especially when you got to be creative to be a conservative press secretary. When you're Jen Psaki, you can just get out there and be like, oh, we don't have all the information yet. And people will somewhat respect it, you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, blah, 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 she's being open and honest. But when you're a conservative press secretary in an administration that has only hired loyalists, you got to be quick on your toes.
And she was there. Like
she figured it out.
I mean, it doesn't comport with anything anyone else was saying, but like it works in the moment, and I respect it.
And that's all that really matters for them, you know what I'm saying? Another strategy was them just name-calling Goldberg, like I said.
Yeah.
What's his name? Mike Walz just got on with Laura Ingraham and said, this guy's a loser, Laura. I don't understand how he got in this group chat, but he's a loser. I know I added him to the group chat, but he's a loser.
It's such a loser that you got his phone number, dog. You got his phone number saved under JG.
You got his digits. You have his digits in your phone, man. And it's like Mike Waltz also tried to say that he's never met Goldberg before in his life. Multiple pictures surfaced in those two meetings.
Come on. Oh, man. You can't just lie. You cannot just lie when people got pictures of you.
That's what I'm saying. This is the fucking 21st century, dog. You can't get away with
also,
that
like,
shit.
you could say, even if there weren't pictures, he could say that, then Jeff Goldberg could be like, that's not true.
And he did.
Yeah.
Like, he just straight up did. He's like, no, we've met many times. Actually, Jeff Goldberg said, I don't like to talk about the specific nature of people I may or may not have met with. Mike Waltz a mole confirmed, bruh.
Man, Jeff Goldberg's a bitch confirmed.
That's what I'm saying.
He just will
out
not.
him. Out
Man.
your source, bruh.
They're lucky it was sent to fucking Jeff Goldberg and not somebody that's more serious about their job.
And lucky it didn't get sent to somebody from like Jacobin.
Yeah, no, literally. Like Jeff Goldberg's, I believe he volunteered to serve in the IDF. He's from New York. He's one of those guys.
Oh my God. Okay.
So Jeff Goldberg is not like an upstanding individual. I probably dislike him for a lot of reasons.
It probably went to the best guy it possibly could have gone
for
to.
them. Yeah, exactly. But like he didn't do anything wrong here is what I'm trying to say. At least in terms of being added to the group chat.
This is true.
It wasn't up to him. So.
Man, that was a whole nother spin that Mike Waltz tried to say. They tried to get out there and they tried to accuse Jeffrey Goldberg of like sending out a fake number with fake contact information to try and like somehow get his digits into Mike Waltz's phone so that somehow he maybe could have been added to something like this. That's a stretch.
Yeah, let's Occam's razor this one and just say that Mike Waltz probably just accidentally clicked JG after he added JD.
Yeah, which in of itself is also like something I feel like if you're, I don't know, a top military official or a top like DOD national security advisor, quite literally the national security advisor to Donald Trump, that you shouldn't be having contacts in your phone as initials. Maybe they should be full names to avoid some shit like this.
Doing this shit over group chats.
You shouldn't even be on Signal in the first place, as I've learned, apparently. It's not a good app. Somebody was in Russia. Apparently, Russia had compromised Signal. Again, I'm not a huge NatSec guy, but if you are, I feel like that's a very concerning thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just firing on all cylinders here.
Everything went wrong,
yeah,
is what it feels like. I guess the last little line of defense that they tried to make is Jesse Waters and Laura Ingraham both got on Fox News and said, guys, this is just a simple mistake. This is just hashtag relatable.
Yeah.
You ever accidentally add your mom to the boys group chat and she sees something messed up? Come on, guys. Come on, fellas.
I've actually never done that.
I've also actually never done that.
I mean, and it's like, okay, yeah, sometimes people can add the wrong person or send a message to the wrong person, but like, I'm not running the government.
I was going to say, I get to make those mistakes.
I'm not killing people in Yemen.
I, being a civilian who at the most risks somebody's hurt feelings, is allowed to make that mistake and can recover from that. Your mistake could have got people killed.
And it's like it's just sheer incompetence.
Maybe there should be a higher level of scrutiny applied to one of these things than the other.
Like Laura Ingraham was because she was the one that interviewed Mike Waltz, and she was really trying to dig him out of the hole that he got himself into. Jesse Waters just took the shaft all the way down. You know what I'm saying? Like
that guy's special. He's got a special ability to do that.
Jesse Waters got on and he was just like, yeah, man, it's super relatable. I've done that before. You've done that before. Who cares?
He's about to graduate from like the Hannity school of just fucking riding on it. Just riding on it, saying thank you the whole time, glazing it, globbering on it even.
We never got anything like this in the Biden regime.
No. If we got something like this during the Biden tyranny, during the Biden regime, they would call to have him tried for treason.
Yeah.
They would want to have Biden hanged and quartered because of this.
Could you imagine if like Antony Blinken accidentally added Peter Doocy to a group chat?
Oh my God.
Like we would never hear the end of it. And yeah, honestly, rightfully so.
Rightfully so. That's a fuck up.
Like, how
and
can you do
I
that?
didn't like Antony Blinken.
Exactly. So I'm biased against him.
It serves my own biases even.
Yeah, but like this, come on, man, this is crazy. There's no excuse for it. People should be at minimum, like Mike Walz should be fired for this.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he will be because he's like loyal enough to Trump, and that's really the only test.
Which was interesting because Trump got on there and said like, "Oh yeah, he took responsibility. He's a great guy. He's a good guy." But also, I had nothing to do with this. Mm-hmm. He got on there to defend Mike Walz and defend the situation, defend Pete Hegseth, while also trying to distance himself from this because even he realizes this is kind of an optical mess.
Yeah.
This is kind of a nightmare. You're not supposed to be doing that on a group chat.
And like, honestly, it really wasn't Trump's fault. Like, I mean, it's Trump's fault to the extent that he runs the executive branch and everyone works under him. Mm-hmm. So he's, the buck stops with him type shit. But like, yeah, this is just a fuck up of his minions that he hired, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not blaming Trump for this. It was just interesting to see how he very much recognized that this was a bad situation and tried to distance himself from it. Without just doing the thing and firing the guy.
Yeah.
It would have meant nothing to just fire that guy. You're telling me you can't find somebody else, another meat rider, to be an ASAC advisor?
Would have been easy.
What is he even advising? Fist bump, fucking American flag, fire emoji.
Yeah, and I will say, like, lost in all of this is that they were continuing the failed Biden policy of bombing the Houthis in Yemen.
Yeah.
Like, this had already proved to not work. It already wasn't stopping the Houthis from launching strikes into the Red Sea at merchant vessels and stuff like that. And they just kept doing it. And this particular strike killed, like, 50-plus people, including women and children.
They leveled an apartment building.
Yeah, and they were, like,
J.D. Vance goes,
about it.
Excellent.
Yeah, they were excited about it. I think I have the quote in here. Yeah, I have it down here. Mike Waltz text, the first target, their top missile guy, we had a positive idea of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and now it's collapsed. And Vance responds, excellent. Like, these people are bloodthirsty demons, just killing innocent people in Yemen.
That's fucking insane.
And I feel like the group chat leaking itself is insane, but the content of the group chat is more evil than that.
It is, yeah.
So I feel like we should recognize that.
It's just like, it's weird because it's like a more acceptable amount of evil, you know what I mean? It's more of a banal evil, like this shit just happens. It's very much accepted that we be bombing weddings and shit, you know what I mean? So when we blow up, level an apartment building and our vice president goes, excellent, our national security advisor goes, fist bump, American flag, fire. That's where that came from.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just bizarre to me that the stated reason the Houthis are attacking vessels in the Red Sea, which I do not support, I condemn the Houthis.
Yeah.
The stated reason for them doing it is because of what Israel's doing to Palestinians. I feel like somewhere along the way we got to deal with the Israeli side of the equation, and we're just not doing it.
And apparently the Israelis are mad at us for this.
For what?
Because something like this exposes like Israeli intelligence, because Mike Walz is saying we have like something in the region brewing about gathering info on these things, and the Mossad is like mad, or the IDF is mad, or Netanyahu's mad, but it's like they're always mad at us.
It's like you wanted these guys to win.
Real.
This is on you.
And it was one thing when Biden first started striking the Houthis, and it was striking missiles, like missile silos, and striking like missile launching capabilities. It's a whole other thing where bombing, blowing up apartment buildings, civilian infrastructure.
Even with Biden, we said at the time when he started doing that, like, if it doesn't work, then you shouldn't do it.
Exactly. Because this is only on the premise that it's working. Yeah. And it didn't.
If they don't work, then you shouldn't just be dropping bombs, because the whole purpose of doing this, of intervening at all, is to stop them from attacking innocent merchant vessels.
It's also crazy because it's like Yemen is a place that we've been bombing for the last, 10 years?
Yeah, it's like a hyper poor country.
Without ever declaring war. That's why it's attack plans.
I haven't declared war since World War II, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, military powers, you got to love them.
I love it. I love wartime powers. Really, it's like we never undeclared war. Wow.
Yeah, we're constantly at war. How about that?
Oh.
Well, the vesting
clause. At war with myself. Within me, there's two wolves.
Exactly.
One of them wants to drop an American flag and a fist bump emoji at a time where it's not appropriate, and the other wants to laugh at that because it's kind of absurd.
Sending emojis in like a government group chat should probably get you jailed forever.
I think so. Court-martialed.
I think you should probably be locked up in Guantanamo or some like equivalent gulag. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That should not be allowed.
And it's just like,
put them in the oubliette.
It's so crazy. Even in the most like desperate times of war, right? I feel like it should be a somber occasion when we blow up and level an apartment building.
Yeah, that shouldn't get an excellent from the vice president.
Exactly.
Like Dick Cheney levels of evil.
That's a whole nother like aspect of the story that just hasn't gotten enough fucking attention, man. But one of the less serious parts that really stuck out to me was before the strike happened, and they're just, talking about it, Houthi PC small group, got to get the chat going, got to start the conversation, get in with little icebreakers. JD Vance chimed in to talk about how he thinks we should wait, that maybe this isn't the right time for the strike because of how it could be perceived, and maybe they should take time to do some messaging to get the American people on board. He started throwing out stats when it comes to shipping through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. We only get like 3%, Europe gets 40%. He didn't want to bail out Europe, and we need to talk about that.
Yeah, that's the silliest part to me, is that his whole hang up with this was that he didn't want to bail out Europe. Not that we'd be killing innocent people.
Also, massive overestimation of what the American public thinks about when these things happen.
Yeah, this guy's a nerd through and through. You got to remember.
I promise you, somebody from, like, I don't know, rural Texas is not thinking, oh, wait a second, we don't get much of our shipping through the Suez Canal, only about 3%. In comparison, Europe gets about 40%. I was worried about the Biden administration being cucked by Europe, and now it feels like Trump is too. What happened to this? Next thing you're going to hear out of JD Vance's mouth is Slava Ukraine.
Well, it's like JD Vance, I think JD Vance knows he has nothing serious to do.
Yeah.
And so he's dropping shit like this to make it seem like he's busy. And case in point is that he's overruled immediately.
It's like when you learn a new word,
yeah,
and you want to seem smart. That's what JD Vance is doing here. But that's not the funny part to me. That's funny in of itself. But what really got me was when Pete Hegseth drops like this chat GPT-ass response separated into multiple paragraphs that really just boils down to, no, I think we should kill hard and fast, sir. Mm-hmm. And that fits with everything that we've talked about this guy, with his quote talking about how we need to like kill all Middle Easterners or some shit at a bar. Like he really is about that shit. And this guy's the Secretary of Defense.
He loves death.
He prays at the altar of war and murder. Like,
no, yeah, this dude absolutely loves death. And I love that, like, JD Vance is the vice president. For, like, theoretically, he's the closest one to the president, right? The old line was that, like, Biden was always the last one in the room with Obama before he made a decision. Like, that's just, like, the corny shit that liberals would always say. Theoretically, he's still JD Vance fills that role now. And Pete Hegseth is the one that's like, no, we should do it now. And then everyone else is like, yeah. And then they do it.
Yeah.
Like, why does JD Vance not have any power in this dynamic?
Why is JD Vance the most reserved one here?
Yeah.
Why is he the least insane person here?
Well, actually, Marco Rubio was in the chat. He just didn't talk.
Little Marco.
He was a fly on the wall. Little Marco.
Little Marco didn't want to get involved. Little Marco couldn't put on the gloves and enter the ring. He couldn't do it.
I wonder if Marco Rubio knew that he was like, I wonder if he knew that the group chat was a bad idea.
You think he knows how he's perceived now?
Maybe. He's a bitch, though.
He is a bitch, exactly. You think he understands that reality? You think he contends with it?
It's just sitting in his head. He finally got what he wanted.
He's looking in the mirror, and he's like, oh, my God.
It was a false bill of goods. It's tough for him, man.
He didn't know.
Tough for him, man. I can't imagine being Marco Rubio.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the Federal Records Act, speaking of laws that we love to fucking keep up with and follow, why were these messages set to auto-delete?
Yeah.
That's something that is literally explicitly not allowed.
Yeah, you can't do that. You gotta save records of all your like official conversations.
You really can't do that. That's quite literally written in the law. This has to be preserved. I know a judge came in and said like, hey, you literally have to preserve these things. And it kind of calls into question what they're not preserving.
Yeah.
I mean, because like if they did this once, there is a slim to none chance that this is the only time they've ever had an inappropriate conversation on an inappropriate channel, an inappropriate group chat.
Yeah,
they're doing this shit all the time.
That was my takeaway. Is like, first of all, of course, total incompetence.
Yeah.
Second of all, bombing Yemen. Like we don't need to keep doing that. But like, third of all, is that like if this happened one time. And if we only know about it because they accidentally added a reporter, it's a widespread issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, Jeffrey Goldberg reported about it, but like, who knows who they're accidentally adding to these group chats? Especially because like the federal government's enormous. You know what I mean?
It is.
You multiply this process over thousands and thousands of employees making their own group chats for their own sensitive projects or maybe military strikes. I mean, what does this look like on a large scale? We just don't know. This is just the first time we found out about it, and we're 3 months in at this point? No.
Yeah.
Just over 2 months in. Yeah.
A few months.
A few
very,
months.
Very few months.
Yeah, we're still within the first 100 days.
Yeah.
I think it's like day 60 right now or something.
I saw a headline earlier, Trump talking about how like the first almost 100 days has gone like beautifully. And I was like, it hasn't even been 100 days yet?
Yeah. Has not been 100 days yet. Just over half, actually.
That's really rough. And I mean, that's like the meat of the story.
Yeah.
Right? But sticking with it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I got to get in here with a little bit of Beyond Parody.
Got to.
Beyond Parody with the Signal group chat. Mm-hmm. Naturally, this was such a big fuck up that even Trump himself wasn't necessarily like defending what was going on. He recognized that he needed to distance himself from it, and he also recognized that this was such a bad optical blunder that there's got to be an investigation into it. I want you to guess, dear listener, yes you, who Trump tasked, or at least partly tasked, with investigating this issue.
Remember, this is the most serious administration of all time.
This is the most serious
Least
administration.
corrupt.
Caroline Leavitt said, look, this just gives us a window into how efficient things are being ran.
Mm-hmm.
And efficiency there may be a hint. Because Elon Musk and some fucking kid named Big Balls were tasked by Trump to investigate this issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when the IDF says we're looking into accusations against us of war crimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they have lawyers. They have the most lawyers, actually. You know, they have like AI algorithms that actually go through and determine that every strike is moral and just. And that's what Elon Musk is going to do with this. That's all I have. That's it. I feel like the story here writes itself. This is not only is this beyond parody, this is damn near beyond commentary. What does Elon Musk have to do with any of this?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is like the tech side of it being like a group chat. But even then, it's like the accusation here.
He doesn't even know anything about tech.
Well, he doesn't. But that's the perception.
We had the fucking Hassan interview drop with his daughter where she said that he used to ask him to boost him in Overwatch. Brody doesn't know anything.
That's so embarrassing, dog. Get off Overwatch.
He was bronze.
Yeah.
Asking his 12-year-old child to boost him. Brother.
Yeah, get off Overwatch, first of all. You do not belong on the video game. And that's okay. Like, not everyone's got to be a gamer. But, like, the meat of this story is accusations of them, like, leaking state secrets. Like, that's the point. It's unambiguous. Like, they just did it.
They just did it. We literally saw what the group chat was, what the platform it was on was, what happened. The only thing we don't know is like how it happened. And I'm assuming that the investigation is pertaining to the fucking bullshit I brought up earlier about how actually this fucking loser Jeffrey Goldberg, this loser hoax perpetuating idiot Jeffrey Goldberg somehow got his number and hacked it into Mike Walz's phone and forced him to add him.
I think Mike Walz just had the number.
I think so too.
I think Mike Walz might have just been talking to Jeffrey. Well, they met before. That's why he has the phone number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somehow he got his phone number in there under JG.
Yeah.
I don't think are there other prominent JGs in the administration that would have been added? I feel like that's the next question we should be asking. And if there's not, it's okay. He just had him.
Yeah.
And even if there are other prominent JGs, we then have to make a large leap to assume that somehow Jeffrey Goldberg was able to convince Mike Walz that he was the other JG.
Yeah.
And he added him as the other JG.
Yeah, that's it's just insane.
There's
it doesn't
a lot
make any
going
sense.
on
It was just a ham-handed thing. Like he just added the wrong person by accident. It's literally
the most interesting question is truly why his number was in Mike Walz's phone.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a mole.
Maybe he's a mole.
Maybe he's a mole.
I think Jeffrey Goldberg was like talking to Jen Psaki on MSNBC.
Yeah.
And he said some shit like there were people, he didn't list the entire like participants list that was in the group chat.
Why not?
Because apparently there were some like CIA agents in there that have never been named publicly.
Oh yeah, I know there were undercover CIA agents. I thought they were discussed. I didn't know they were in there. Okay, that's
maybe it was discussed. Maybe I can't remember exactly, but their names were in there in some capacity.
Yeah.
But like it's unclassified. Drop the names. You know what I mean? The Trump administration said the entire chat's unclassified because they wanted to save their own ass. Drop the names, man.
Talk about forced retirement for federal workers.
You're a journalist.
We could really be about it right now.
It's so fucking absurd, man. It's so bad out here. But yeah.
What a lovely country we got.
That's the group chat.
We got competent people steering the ship.
Yeah. We got the captains of the ship that are just locked in.
They are.
On steering us into...
Locked in on ketamine. And...
yeah. I hate commercials.
Me too.
I hate listening to them. I hate when I hear them, whether it's on TV or on podcasts.
Grr, I just can't stand commercials. Grr.
They're the worst. And the one place you can go to avoid commercials, like this one you're listening to right now, is patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Become a patron, and you get early access to our episodes, and they're all completely commercial-free. No more interruptions.
And you could be one of our friends.
And that's arguably the more important point.
And, you know, in trying times like this, friendship is what we really need.
Friendship's really important. And you can buy your way into being a friend of ours by heading over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Again, early access to episodes, no commercials, access to all of our content before anyone else sees it. Become a patron. Moving on to our next news story here, we got to talk about due process.
We do. big Law and Order podcast.
Number one law podcast. That's what we are. One of the major stories this past week has been about due process, and if it even matters. The title of this section of the show is Due Process and Its Discontents, because we got some Republicans that disagree. Look, habeas corpus, sick as hell.
6L. I fuck with that, actually.
This is a pro due process podcast.
The Fourth Amendment? Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Rights of the accused? I fuck with that.
Those shits are underrated.
But the Trump administration, at least some in the Trump administration and just the Republican Party generally, seem to disagree. I want to run you through a few specific examples, a few notable examples of violations of due process this past week. And then we can talk about the sort of broader scheme or arrangement that the Trump administration is working towards. So last Tuesday, Tufts University student, I'm going to butcher this name, I feel like.
2 white boys out of mid-Michigan.
Yeah, Ramisa Ozturk, I think is the name. She was surrounded on a sidewalk and arrested by plainclothes ICE agents.
That video was genuinely insane.
Yes.
That shit was disturbing. She's quite literally just walking, and plainclothes officers come up, put their hands on her, and then some dude comes up with handcuffs to arrest her and take her away.
She's just walking alone. I'm guessing in Boston. That's where Tufts University is. For those that don't know, she's a Turkish PhD student here on a student visa. She committed the crime of writing an op-ed a year ago in the student paper in favor of Palestine. That writing student op-eds in like the university paper is a very common thing.
Yeah,
that student activists do, even ones that aren't like at the forefront of things. You know, it's a version of activism that doesn't require you to get out in front of cameras.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah,
a lot of people get locked up if this is a crime now. Or deported if this is a crime now.
You know, some of those students do deserve to get locked up, but it's not the pro-Palestinian ones.
Yeah. But so Ozturk is a PhD student from Turkey here on a student visa. But according to DHS, that's the Department of Homeland Security, Ozturk, quote, engaged in activities in support of Hamas.
Of being pro-Palestine.
A foreign terrorist organization that relishes the killing of Americans.
Okay.
That was from directly a quote from the Department of Homeland Security. Luckily, the ACLU stepped in, filed a countersuit on her behalf, but at the same time, after she was arrested, she was unable to contact her lawyer for 24 hours, and she was without her asthma medication as they took her all the way down to the Louisiana Detention Center.
Why are they throwing everyone in the Louisiana Detention Center?
I'm guessing because it's far away. She's in Boston. Tufts University's in Boston. She's taken to Louisiana. Same with Mahmoud Khalil, who was taken from Columbia University in New York all the way down to Louisiana. Same thing.
Isn't there a New Jersey detention center? Like, wasn't that part of it?
Yeah.
It's like there's one in New Jersey, but he was deliberately taken to Louisiana.
Yeah, I think it's because it's harder to contact them.
And I think Louisiana has been noted for human rights abuses or some shit like that.
Shit. Well,
no, wait, I might be thinking of Seesaw. Really the same thing. Really the same thing if you think about it.
Now, thankfully, a judge has stepped in and put a stop to this for now, basically saying she needs to have a trial before she can be kicked out and sent to Turkey.
Who'd have thought?
But again, all she did was write an opinion piece in the student paper a year ago.
What are they going to do to Hassan?
And all she wrote was it was the same thing as like Columbia University, right? It was basically her saying like Tufts University doesn't do enough. They're invested in Israel. They need to do way more. There's been a genocide happening in Palestine and stuff like that. And specifically, I was reading about Ozturk and her academic history. I think she's focused a lot on children and children's well-being and health and that sort of thing. Yeah. And so her focus was on the effect of children in Palestine right now.
Interesting.
An incredibly just relevant and important piece of work in writing and research, and she's being kicked out potentially.
Wow.
And people around her, peers and teachers and stuff like that, were to think of her as a violent terrorist is insane. She's just a fucking PhD student.
It is quite literally to be pro-Palestinian and somebody on a student visa is to be pro-Hamas and worthy of deportation. I mean, that's what Marco Rubio is getting out there and saying when he gets out and tries to defend these things. It's also beyond commentary, but in a bad way, you know?
Yeah, people on student visas have First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
The Bill of Rights says people, not just U.S. citizens specifically. If you're in the U.S., if you're operating in the U.S., you have the rights
and it's also
afforded to people in the U.S.
When it comes to rights, things that are rights aren't given by God. They're kind of just things we all agree are good.
Yeah.
They're kind of things, prescribed in the law. Big law podcast, huge rule of law fan over here now, as I've discovered. And it's kind of absurd to say that these things are so fundamentally important to a person's being in this country, that we will enshrine them and give them like a super duper status and call them rights because they are this important. They should never be violated. But if you're just like the wrong person, we don't have to give you those.
Yeah.
Like it's fundamentally absurd to not grant rights to everyone who is under your jurisdiction if you truly believe that these rights are a good and just and noble thing.
And that's the complicated part about talking about things like due process and the rule of law right now is, of course, there are incredibly important developments in the trajectory of like human society.
Yeah.
I think that they're important to maintain and fight for. But at the same time, historically in the U.S., due process, of course, didn't mean much if you were a part of a marginalized group.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the rule of law didn't mean much if you could be randomly lynched by a white mob that's angry at you for looking at a white woman on the street. Like it doesn't mean a whole lot for those marginalized groups or those not considered in the in-group. Yet, this is still, I think, a unique shift towards authoritarianism that we need to find a good way to talk about and raise the alarm bells about. Because, like, truth be told, Biden wouldn't have done this.
No, he didn't do this. Like, notably, like, Biden, famously, lots of dissent. Like, lots of dissent under him. Oh. That's when the fucking the encampments are gone. They're over. They're not happening on any college anymore. What is it, Hamilton Hall or whatever the fuck in Columbia was literally taken over by students under Biden, and all he did was, like, condemn it.
I was going to say, like, it's tough talking about because under Joe Biden, that was when police started basically brutalizing students at, like, the University of Texas, Austin, or Columbia University.
The important distinction there is it wasn't under, like, the direction of Joe Biden. Not to clean his image when it comes to, like, this entire issue, because obviously, you know, very bad.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, it was still happening in, like, New York City, you know, a blue state.
Yes.
In control of, Democratic governor
fucking
in control.
Josh Shapiro.
Eric Adams, Josh Shapiro, right. Like, it's Democrats that are, like, seeing these things through, and yet this is still an escalation and something that is
crazy.
Significantly worse than what happened before.
Yeah, that's true. I see what you're getting, because it was crazy that Democrats allowed this to happen. It was crazy that, like, all
Democrats
of these
in many
blue
ways
states
opened the door for this kind of thing.
We're letting police in to brutalize students, and it is so crazy that you can escalate beyond that and land at where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. The second example here is Jasmine Mooney, a Canadian actress, was detained in early March after she went to reapply for her work visa at a California immigration office. So she's an immigrant that has worked here many, many times. She was working in Los Angeles for a marketing company, went to renew her TN visa, which I think is like a special one for Canadians and Mexicans that want to come work in the U.S. Okay. And then she learned that her initial visa that she had for the past, I don't know, year, however many months, was initially denied. Instead of just sending her back to Canada where she's from, they detained her for 12 days. After about 2 days, they shackled her and put her in a van and sent her to an actual detention facility. About halfway through her detention, 6 days in, they sent her to a facility in Arizona where she was reportedly like sleeping on a mat on the floor.
This is a human rights abuse.
Yes.
Like, I feel like there's no other way to put it. This is insane. And this is like also ICE agents doing this shit for the love of the game because they're evil. Mm-hmm. ICE agents are crazy.
Yeah, and it's like she, again, well-known person, Canadian actress, has worked in the U.S. before, no history of violent crime or any crime at all. She shows up because she thought she could renew her visa, doing it all through official channels, like trying to do this the correct way, and then she gets detained for 12 days. And now she has been released as of today, or as of a few days ago, but she's banned from the U.S. for 5 years.
Like, that should be grounds to be able to, like, sue the government.
Yeah, she's countersuing.
There is no reason to detain somebody like this. And they're just doing it, presumably, like, for what I can only describe as the love of the game.
Wholly a productive member of society, a white Canadian.
A white Canadian.
And, like, not to say that there's any justification.
Of course.
For them, you know, attacking and marginalizing brown people and sending them away.
If there's ever a group that you can't even as a conservative try and spin.
right.
It's going to be a white Canadian woman.
They don't even have the racial, like, antagonism that they can do here. It's just a white Canadian woman.
Come on, man. It's not even like a man and you can pretend they have tattoos and are scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, look, you might be able to argue that those previous two cases, eventually due process stepped in and maybe will prevail. The rule of law still eventually applied, even though they were abused for some undefined set of time. You know what I mean? Like, the due process eventually kicked in. But I think we can sort of up the ante, get a little bit more serious, and talk about, once again, the Alien Enemies Act. Because, of course, under the Alien Enemies Act, Trump has sent more than 200 Venezuelan men to that maximum security prison in El Salvador, functionally a slave colony.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, right? Even if we don't know that these guys are terrorists, as one ICE field officer said, and we talked about last episode, or 2 episodes ago, just because we don't know they're terrorists actually means that they're like super terrorists because we know nothing about them.
Well, and I was wondering how ICE agents determine who they're actually going to take away.
Yep.
And ABC actually got a hold of some information because the ACLU is suing ICE. Yeah. And we have the details of how ICE makes these kinds of determinations. And I thought it was very interesting, and we should go through it here.
Okay.
So, of course, these men, they've not had any due process. More than 100 people just scooped up, deported, not sent to their home country of Venezuela, but sent to the prison in El Salvador. And we found out how ICE makes these determinations. They have a scorecard. And again, this is from ABC. It says, quote, migrants who score 8 points and higher are validated as members of TDA. Validated as, again, there's no due process here. There's not a court doing, a court's not making a determination. It is ICE.
Words don't have meaning anymore. Validated?
Right. That's the kind of language you'd use if it was proven in court, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they score 8 points and higher, they are validated as members of TDA, the document says. But the document also appears to leave a lot of discretion of ICE officers conducting the review, stating that even if migrants only score 6 or 7 points, they may still be considered members of the gang. Further, quote, communicating electronically with a known TDA member is worth 6 points.
All right, brother.
In other words, it appears to be enough evidence for an official to classify a person as a member of the gang. Further,
looking at me mean is 8 points.
But it's like communicating with them. What does communicating mean? Like I text him, I have a phone call with him.
I walked by him in the street, said, excuse me?
Exactly. Further, quote, one of the categories labeled symbolism includes a section about tattoos denoting membership / loyalty to TDA and social media posts by the subject displaying symbols of TDA. According to the document, individuals with tattoos that are believed to be associated with TDA are worth 4 points. Half the points you need, just having a tattoo that they think is associated with TDA.
You only need 2 more points to be basically deported.
Yeah, and that includes, quote, tattoos of crowns, trains, stars, and clocks. Additional identifiers, according to the document, include often wear sports attire from U.S. professional sports teams with Venezuelan nationals on them and dressed in high-end urban streetwear.
Brother.
This is the criteria for ICE to deport you. And again, this does not involve a court at all.
Wearing a fucking jersey is enough to pin you as a member of a fucking gang. Wearing a jersey?
Yeah, and it boils down to if you look a certain way or you talk a certain way, you can be deported without due process.
If you scowl at me as a plainclothes officer, you're done for, buddy.
Yeah.
That's fucking high-end streetwear?
High-end streetwear. Lock me up, man. But of course, I wouldn't get locked up because I don't look like a stereotypical Venezuelan gang member.
That's true, and I don't have an autism awareness tattoo. That was another story that was like circulating around this week. I think from probably just every outlet, some Venezuelan had an autism awareness tattoo, and that got him deported.
Yeah, luckily, I think he got the charges cleared or whatever. Not that there were charges presented against him, but like he's fine now.
I think almost got him deported then, I guess. But either way, that shit got him 4 points.
But we do know of people that were deported for having a tattoo that they think is associated with TDA when it's really just like a sports tattoo.
Yeah, you know, if you got a soccer ball, fucking Latins love soccer, and like you're done for.
We've had people saying that, people, lazy liberals or whatever will step in and say, okay, but where's the due process? And someone will say, but they're violent criminals, so we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you know without due process? Exactly. If you don't have a process for adjudicating these charges, how do you know that they're violent criminals? You're just going to take their word for it?
Especially when you're just looking at a scorecard. It's not like they watched them shoot somebody in the head. They looked at them. They scowled at him. They got 3 points for that. Then they had a tattoo that's 7 points, and that's good enough.
Well, and it's especially damning because they have the scorecard. But when you consider that you can already get deported if you're dealing drugs, if you commit a violent crime, if you steal or do anything like that, you can already get deported for doing those things. The scorecard is solely just so they can get more people.
Yeah.
More people that have not committed a violent crime.
And it's like, why even have the scorecard? Because it's like they get out there and they've got the scorecard and they say you need 8 points, but actually you don't really need 8 points.
You actually only need 6 points, and we can get to that 6 if you just talk to somebody before.
Like, they made their own rules to try and establish legitimacy for themselves, and then they said, we actually don't have to stick to those rules if we don't like you. So you're gone.
And you know, like getting somebody charged and then convicted in a court of law is kind of like a scorecard. You could just do that. You could follow the set process that ensures everyone's rights are respected, and you're not kicking out citizens or anything like that.
I can't stand Alyssa Slotkin. Somehow this is her fault. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like realistically, like if we're being real for a moment, we are here because of how the Democrats chose to message about immigration.
Yes, 100%.
Not to be the leftist that only attacks Democrats and never talks about conservatives, but no meaningful counter message gives these people enough room to think they can get away with this.
Yeah.
And as of now, they are getting away with it.
Yeah, nobody ever challenged Trump's assertions that we have 20 million illegal immigrants running around and like, you know, killing your white daughters or whatever.
Nobody challenged Trump's assertions that there was a fucking invasion at the southern border. And because those went unchallenged, because he was allowed to get people to believe that, because people's beliefs change, they're not just fucking inalienable characteristics like Democrats think they are.
Yeah.
We have him invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
Yeah, and there's nothing we can do about it. Right? There's nothing anyone can do about it except maybe courts, but even then, pretty sure this is going to the Supreme Court at this point. 6-3 stacked in his favor.
Like, we got to rely on Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh, Brett 2 Beers Kavanaugh.
Yeah. Democrats really should just be unapologetically pro-immigrant. Like, yeah, obviously, if an immigrant commits a crime, you can say you condemn that, but doesn't represent all immigrants, and immigrants are a boon for this country on the whole. Easy. It's the rhetoric, I think, that you can make in favor of immigration, or the arguments you can make in favor of immigration from the left, I think are more powerful than those on the right can make for expelling immigrants.
Absolutely.
I think it appeals more to something in the human spirit to say that we are a melting pot and people coming to if people want to come to this country, we should be proud of that fact.
Yeah.
I think there's something powerful there that Democrats just refuse to tap into for some reason.
Say we've got a lot here to offer. People recognize that. People want to come over and they want to help out. They want to help contribute to the American project.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like the stats you've cited before on this show, people were more open to immigration than ever before when Democrats talked that way.
Yeah,
against Donald Trump.
It's like from Bill Clinton up until 2016, and like through like Trump's first term, Democrats had consistently been on the rise to be more pro-immigrant, and it was working for them. But then Joe Biden wins, and he, I don't know, wants to kill Haitian immigrants at the border, continues Trump's border policies, and then immediately Democrats are back on the line with, yeah, you know, maybe that brown guy is scary.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so stupid.
And it's like, to put a broader point on this, you can call me a stupid bleeding heart leftist or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think due process is pretty good.
I do.
Like, I don't think the Trump administration should be able to deport you or imprison you just because they feel like doing it.
And you know what? Even when somebody does commit a crime, like it's on video and you see it, I still think they should have a trial or engage in a plea deal.
Yeah.
Due process. They should have the option to have a trial.
I think due process is pretty cool, but this past week, some Republicans have disagreed. More specifically, Republican Representative Victoria Spartz from Indiana said, quote, "You violated the law. You are not entitled to due process."
Flag on the play.
Which is
hold on a minute.
Exactly the wrong thing, actually. When Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, was asked about due process, his response was, quote, "Where was Laken Riley's due process? They love parading her around."
She didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
Are we insinuating she committed a crime?
Well, she didn't commit a crime, and it's like the dude was deported, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think like the due process, he's using due process, I guess, in exchange for justice, but like I guess you could say justice did happen eventually.
Yeah, but it's like due process is a right you have if you're accused of a crime.
Yeah, due process isn't just something like you're not walking around with due process.
Well, yeah, due process doesn't protect me from like getting shot by somebody else. Exactly. It protects me from the government. Like, that's the point of that, whatever. Stephen Miller, one of Trump's advisors, tweeted, quote, "If every foreign trespasser gets to have their own federal trial prior to removal, then there is no liberation, there's no restoration, the invasion will be made complete."
Oh my God, that's just fucking Stephen Miller or Hitler. You know what I'm saying?
That was a part of a much longer tweet, by the way.
That's probably taken from like Heimler's notebook. Yeah. I swear to God, man, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you see a Stephen Miller tweet, you think it's a lost page of Mein Kampf. You know, it's actually insane.
Mein Kampf, the extra chapters.
I don't want to nerd out too much. Due process is important for many reasons.
You can't just accuse somebody of a crime and then they're locked up forever and their rights stripped away.
Exactly.
It's good that you can't just do that. It's good that we have a system where we at least attempt
Nominally,
to give somebody a fair trial and at least attempt to find the facts of a case and determine what a adequate punishment would be.
Yeah. And we haven't always lived up to that standard, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like due process hasn't applied equally to all people at all times. But due process in theory is very important for one specific reason, and that reason is the government lies.
Yeah.
The government
case in point.
will charge you and will lie, and you need to be able to have the right to get those charges presented to you in a court of law and defend yourself.
And it's like, what do you mean you violated the law? You don't get due process. Like, that's low-key like the craziest one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I expect Stephen Miller to be Hitler. You know what I'm saying? I expect him to arrive at the same conclusions.
100%. I mean, it's the territory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like we've literally put the cart before the horse. You violated the law. You don't get due process, buddy. I think we got to flip these things, and then maybe you have a statement that's true. Oh, you get due process? You violated the law. I can get behind that.
But it's like you get due process specifically if you've been charged with a crime. Like that's the whatever, man. It's crazy. Look, regardless,
these are the people that want to bring the death penalty back.
Yeah, regardless of whatever your ideology is, I know people listening to this are progressive, but like even if somehow you're a conservative, you made it through, you should not want people in positions of power who fundamentally don't believe that if you are threatened with some form of state punishment, that you deserve a fair trial and to have the charges clearly presented to you. If that is the case, if people in power do not care about due process, your citizenship means nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that differentiates you from a citizen to just some person they could pluck off the street and deport or send to a penal colony or whatever it may be.
Oh, if Joe Biden did this, there'd be a civil war. Rightfully so, low-key.
Yeah.
I'd be fighting against him because suspending due process is fundamentally insane.
Yeah, if you don't have due process, you don't have citizenship.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are no rights if you don't have the right to due process. There is so much rolled up in the fact that you can have your case heard in a court and theoretically it's, in front of a jury of your peers, that if you don't have that, it might as well be an authoritarian dictatorship.
They always talk about having the second to defend the first when it's in the context of being able to say like the N-word and shit on Twitter or whatever.
Exactly.
But never talk about having the second to defend like the other ones, that
other
are also very good. You know what I mean?
Like it's so important and people don't see it. And it's bad. It's
really bad.
real bad. And as Trump said, he who saves his country violates no law.
Man, Stephen Miller really is just fucking Hitler.
Oh,
That's crazy.
Stephen Miller went crazy with that tweet. He was
my God.
He was actually pissed off. I don't know if I can pull up the full thing here. Oh, here we go. So the little snippet I pulled was further down. It's a long tweet, as you can see.
Bro wrote a book.
I might as well just read the whole thing. He said, the fundamental error in how immigration is being discussed in the courts and the media is pretending that what happened to us over the last 4 years is a routine civil enforcement matter. No, in all caps. He says, we were invaded and occupied. Entire neighborhoods were conquered. Entire towns were subjugated. Our treasury was plundered. Our democracy was torn piece by piece. A national referendum was held on whether to surrender the invasion or repel it. America voted for liberation. And then the piece I quoted about due process. And then Article 4, Section 4 requires the president to halt any invasion, and no district court can override that mandate. For the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The invading armies and foreign trespassers will be expelled. The cartels will be smashed. Liberation will be achieved.
Bro dropped Mein Kampf 2.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. Talking about it like it's like a sickness or something.
That shit is a psychopath. Stephen Miller is a psychopath.
Yeah. And like, again, it's difficult talking about this, right? Because like due process doesn't really mean much if, you can be killed by the police for no reason.
Yeah, there's a rich history of due process not being given to the minorities.
Or, yeah, if you can be accused, like if you're a black man and you're accused of raping a white woman and it just doesn't mean what evidence it doesn't matter what evidence you present, you're still going to jail for it because you're a black man, right? Like, in that case, it doesn't matter much. But at the same time, again, this is like a unique threat.
But also, like, in those cases, we've recognized that those are wrong and attempted to change course and make right and dismantle biases.
We've made progress since then.
Yeah.
And that is something that we should want to hold on to and not roll back. But also, what Trump is doing is in service of a broader fascist agenda to cleanse the country of degeneracy and restore it to like a glorious past.
Because this is literally fascist. This is fascist rhetoric for fascist policies.
Yeah, yeah. And that I think is the unique threat, is that this is in service of like an agenda of cleansing the nation.
Wow.
And it's bad. Number one rule of law, due process podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Fucking, I'm gonna start walking around with a pocket constitution.
I'm gonna bust it out. Actually, you can see my rights are right here. Pocket Constitution plus Bill of Rights
Pocket
plus
Bill of
Bible.
Rights. Oh my God. Plus the Bible. King James Bible, baby. Busting it out the back pocket. Hold on. You see in fucking Leviticus 16:82. Thou shalt listen to Hiddo.
The congregation is missing someone. And that someone, dear listener, is you. The congregation awaits you over on our Discord. If you go into the description of this episode right now, there will be a link to join the Head in the Office Discord where you will find more than 1,000 like-minded individuals for you to interact with. And maybe most importantly, we'll be there.
1,000 members strong. It is a burgeoning community of Hiddo heads.
That's right.
Ready to receive you into their arms. Make you a part of the community. Vest you as a Hiddo head.
Over on Discord, we have discussions. You can interact with other Hiddo heads. And maybe, for some fun, we can do some community events. And we know that you want to be a part of that. Only available over on the official Head in the Office Discord.
All this talk about like due process and the Constitution and the Bible has got me thinking about like history, like real history that ought to be recorded and kept so that we can look back at it.
Preserved forever.
One sort of type of place that's job it is to preserve history and preserve things, goings on, culture, so that we can always like look back at it and learn about it, is a museum. And they've been infested.
I like museums. Oh, yeah, you're right. They're infested, though.
Yeah, we don't like museums.
I don't fuck with them, actually.
No, I don't fuck with museums anymore.
I love you.
Exactly. We don't fuck with museums anymore because they've been infested with the woke mind virus. They've gone crazy, and they're teaching our youth bad things.
They're teaching white kids to hate themselves.
They are. they really are. That's what's going on. Until finally, fucking this week, President Trump took it upon himself to sign an executive order titled, quote, "Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History," with the stated goal of, quote, "revitalizing key cultural institutions and reversing the spread of divisive ideology."
Oh, great. Thank God. Finally, somebody did it.
Somebody wants to fucking stand up for our kids.
Yeah.
Our kids.
I hate it when kids go to museums and come out hating themselves.
I hate it when kids go to museums and learn that white people own slaves and they say, fuck, and they're depressed for the rest of their lives and they can never have a job and they become a liberal.
That's what's happened.
That's what's happened. These kids can't go jobs, so they become liberals so they can get handouts. It's not me, it's the facts. You know what I'm saying? So Trump finally took it upon himself to do that. And Trump claims that the Smithsonian specifically promotes, quote, "narratives that portray American and Western values as inherently harmful and oppressive."
I'm sure it doesn't.
The Smithsonian. The Smithsonian.
I'm almost certain it doesn't do that.
Really, buddy.
Yeah.
We're talking about the museums that got that movie with Ben Stiller. Those are the ones that are running around eroding American culture, teaching white kids to feel bad about themselves, teaching I don't know, everybody to be gay so that nobody can have kids anymore. That's what's going on at the Smithsonian.
I gotta say,
sure.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I think I can say with certainty that that's maybe not what's going on. The executive order really attempts to combat the propaganda that the Smithsonian puts out by directing J.D. Vance, who sits on the board of the Smithsonian by virtue of him just being the vice president, to eliminate, quote, "improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology from the museums and to work with Congress to keep from funding exhibits that promote exhibits or programs that, quote, divide Americans by race."
What fucking division is the Smithsonian doing by race, dog?
Slavery. It's teaching people about slavery.
Yeah.
As we'll get into, like in other words, it's no more telling people that George Washington had slaves, because that's what this is really about.
Because that's anti-American.
That's anti-American because then you don't fuck with the founders anymore. I haven't for a while, but
I haven't fucked with the founders ever.
I haven't fucked with the founders ever, but now that I'm rule of law pilled, like maybe there's a silver lining. You know what I mean?
They didn't know shit about the rule of law, though. I do.
That's true. They fucking did the Alien Enemies Act.
Exactly.
They got us here.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
They went to war with Canada right when they started.
George Washington did own slaves. Fucker.
Fucking ass.
That fucking guy was, but I'm not going to say that again. Sorry, Cash Patel. But yeah, so that's what's going on. In other words, no more telling people that George Washington had slaves. And really, it's kind of... Ever since the CRT craze, conservatives have just been acting like saying white people own slaves is somehow an attack on white people today rather than a historical fact. Teachers are not teaching kids about slavery to, I don't know, teach people about the horrors that we've committed before in effort to stop us from committing them again. It's to make your kid feel bad, personally.
Yeah, I still don't understand how this equation works out.
I never once learned about slavery in school, because we started learning about slavery in what, like 4th, 5th grade? And thought, oh, fuck, that's me.
Yeah.
I did that because I didn't really.
High school teachers aren't even all that critical.
They're football coaches.
Like, Columbus and the Mayflower and this, transatlantic slave trade and stuff like that. Most of the stuff that I learned about like the horrors U.S. committed here and abroad are like I learned through college classes or my own research.
I was going to say, I learned in like college sociology classes, or I learned because I do this podcast.
Yeah, but like beyond that, like I just don't see, like they've never really explained how high school teachers or elementary teachers are teaching white kids to hate themselves.
And it's like social studies teachers are either like cool dudes or football coaches. And very opposite ends of the political spectrum right there.
I was going to say, sometimes they're just conservative.
Exactly.
You know, like it doesn't really make much sense to me. And I think this serves like a dual purpose. Like one, it's a dog whistle to the worst people in the electorate that they're going to represent
anti-American propaganda, really.
Yeah.
Really.
And two, it's the George Orwell quote, he who controls the future controls, or he who controls the past controls the future.
Like that just means no more telling people about the Chinese Exclusion Act or telling people that was actually good because look at China today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what this is. And I mean, if you want like a more tangible sort of look at how this could affect how stuff like slavery and its after effects are treated by the administration, Florida's the blueprint. Yeah. Florida kind of started all this with the CRT stuff. Florida had that whole Stop Woke Act where they got in there and said it's illegal to make white kids feel bad, which is not something that happens.
Oh, no, the Stop Woke Act was businesses can't do DEI trainings.
I thought it was. They also had a. I thought they had another act then that was also like schools can't teach about things that make white kids feel bad.
Oh, maybe that was Stop. It was Stop Woke and Don't Say Gay.
There was
like
a litany.
Yeah,
there was a lot of laws that were getting passed in the Florida legislature in like 2022 that were all about making things worse.
And not a single one about keeping buildings in Miami up. Miami up.
Real as hell.
You know what I mean?
Not a single one about keeping buildings in Miami's up. Not a single one addressing like the outrageous cost of living crisis in Florida going on right now. How Florida is one of the most expensive states to live in, if not the most expensive state to live in, adjusted for income. Like, I don't know. Maybe we should worry about that.
Yeah.
Rather than teaching
got some
kids
issues
that,
to focus on.
Slavery was like okay, maybe. But like I said, Florida's the blueprint, and to sort of demonstrate where the conservative mind is here. You remember when Florida rejected AP African American Studies?
I unfortunately do.
They didn't allow it to be taught in Florida schools. Basically, they called it too woke. I found out this week when I was doing some research that the Miami Herald last year obtained the exact comments and critiques that were made by the Florida Department of Education and about AP African American Studies. And I'd like to show you some of these critiques that conservatives in the Department of Education of Florida put out there.
Worth reminding folks that it was a pilot program at one high school.
Yes.
That was upended and canceled.
This was not curricula.
Yeah.
This was not curricula.
APs are by nature elective, but whatever.
This is true. They said this can't be taught. This is too woke, and this is why. So I'm going to read you first an excerpt from the course curriculum.
Okay.
Quote, despite the growth of the black middle class, substantial disparities in wealth along racial lines remain. Discrimination and racial disparities in housing and employment stemming from the early 20th century limited black communities' accumulation of generational wealth in the second half of the 20th century. Before I read the comments, I'd like to point out that this is talking about the first half of the 20th century and the second half of the 20th century. That's not the 2000s. No. That's the 1900s.
Also, just like an incontestable truth that the past affects the future.
Yes.
We did not do enough to ensure that black communities had what they needed economically to succeed.
The Civil Rights Act happened in the second half.
This is true.
Of the 20th century.
And even that was insufficient is what I'm saying.
And even that didn't do what it needed to do after the Civil Rights Act. Redlining got banned. Like,
in the 80s, by the way.
Come on, gang.
Banned in the 80s.
Come on, gang. Like, that's what's happening. This is what reviewers had to say. They rejected this by saying the unit could potentially violate state rules because it failed to offer other reasons outside of systemic racism and discrimination for the wealth disparity between black Americans and other racial groups. Quote, the only required resource in this topic cites systemic racism, discrimination, systemic barriers, and structural racism as a primary or significant causative factor explaining the disparity in wealth, wrote one evaluator. This topic appears to be one-sided.
Dog, that is the reason. That is the reason.
They said, you can't say this without presenting the false idea that black people bad.
Yeah. You have to attribute it to like race or culture.
Like what are you supposed to do? You to like deny this exhaustive list of reasons why, exhaustive and true list of reasons why there's a disparity between these racial groups. you would also have to propose, in a similar serious light, IQ maps.
Or maybe say that they just don't work hard enough. They don't want it enough.
Crazy. Yeah. Or welfare queens. Have you considered welfare queens?
Exactly.
This is insane.
Yeah, no, genuinely.
This is a person in a position of power. This is the blueprint for what the fucking federal government wants to do at places like the Smithsonian and what they would want to do for education throughout the country.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Another one. The course said, quote, enslaved African Americans had no wages to pass down to descendants, no legal right to accumulate property, and individual exceptions depended on the enslaver's whims. That's what the course said.
A fundamentally true statement.
Fundamentally true statement.
Incontestable truth of history.
You cannot deny this. State reviewers said, quote, this is not true and may be promoting the critical race theory idea of reparations.
It said nothing about reparations.
That's crazy. It, quote, supposes that no slaves or their descendants accumulated any wealth. Quote, this topic presents one side of the issue and does not offer any opposing viewpoints or other perspectives on the subject.
Dog, an AP history class is supposed to tell you what happened, not give you opposing viewpoints to what happened.
This isn't an opinion essay.
Yeah.
This is just the facts of history.
Yeah.
And outside of my own commentary, in every single slave state, by law, slaves could not own any property.
Yeah.
These reviewers are strictly lying. They said, again, I will read it again. This is not true and may be promoting the critical race theory idea of reparations. It supposes that no slaves or their descendants accumulated any wealth. No slaves accumulated any wealth.
Yeah.
They literally could not. Even if slaves were allowed to work for a wage to eventually buy their own freedom after 20 years, that was not money that they owned. That was not their money. That was money that the owner was accumulating for them to then let them go free one day, maybe.
Yeah.
They had no ownership over that money.
Well, and like by federal law, slaves were not citizens. They had no rights that were afforded to citizens.
By law,
like the Dred Scott decision said, like they are not and never will be citizens.
Yes.
Black people specifically.
They did not own the fucking clothes on their back or the shoes on their feet. By law. This is an unalienable fact that they owned nothing and that stopped them from building generational wealth, because you kind of need wealth among generations to have generational wealth.
And you might be able to point to like a few historical examples of black people accumulating wealth, like freeing themselves from slavery, going north or whatever. But if that, to the extent that that's the case, they did it in spite of a system of apartheid in the South.
Exactly.
And even then, up in the North, it's not like things were like a multicultural safe haven for all people of all types.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it still was pretty racist and bad.
Yeah.
And they did it in spite of structures of racism. Like it's absurd.
And that's just a couple of the state's critiques of the curriculum. Kind of like in summary, what conservatives like Donald Trump and the people who are writing and will enforce the executive order want to do is erase this idea that the legacy of slavery has anything to do with the problems that black Americans face today, and even that black Americans face in the 19th century, which is just a bonkers take even by like conservative or classical liberal standards. Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
The Jim Crow South.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's the Orwell quote, he who controls the past controls the future. If you can change how people perceive the national history, then you can change the way in which history will unfold in the future.
And it's like they're doing that and they're executing on this by both sidesing. By both sidesing the issue. Come on, man.
Well, it's like there's two options when we're talking about systemic inequalities, right? Say we look at the disparities in household wealth between black families and white families. You can either say that's a systemic issue, that is like it's outside, it's an external economic issue, whether historical or still present day, or it's an internal issue and they're just like personally failing morally, or they're like genetically worse off, and then we get into like, actual scientific racism and shit like that.
Yeah.
And if you think it's the second one, you're just racist.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no empirical evidence to suggest that black people genetically are just inferior, or they just don't work as hard because of like reasons inherent to being black. And it's nonsense.
It's also like, we really gonna fence it slavery?
Yeah.
If there was like one issue that you couldn't both sides, like you can't seriously look at me and say like, have you considered like the other side of slavery? Like, maybe that shit wasn't like wholly bad.
Ron DeSantis, the same dude who was, I think his state education board was saying that there were some redeeming qualities to slavery.
Yes,
like
and
they
he
learned some
defended
skills.
that.
And he defended it. On the debate stage, he defended it back during the GOP debates. He was saying that
I forgot about that. That shit was crazy.
Slaves learned some skills that were good for them as a result of being a slave, which is just doing apology for slavery.
We're both siding slavery.
Yeah.
One of the great evils of the world.
Oh, yeah. Like, especially transatlantic slavery.
Oh, of course.
Like chattel slavery was uniquely evil compared to the previous forms of slavery. And you know, motherfuckers like Charlie Kirk and PragerU and stuff, they like to say that
radical abolitionist John Brown.
No, they'll say that like Africans started slavery and the West ended slavery without ever talking about how the West also invented chattel slavery
and perpetuated it and created and expanded it and made it worse.
Yeah, and how, you know, the U.S. started as a slave
Talk
colony.
about how there are like sharks that still troll the waters that like slave ships used to go because so many bodies used to drop in there that it fundamentally changed the ecosystem of the goddamn ocean.
Yeah.
Like, one of humanity's greatest evils went on here, and it's like under this executive order, the Smithsonian's going to have to say like, oh, but there were like other slaves too, like in other points in time.
I never got that argument either. It's like, yeah, of course other people did slavery.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, you especially can't invoke that argument when talking about like American history, because it's like, why would the fact that there were slaves in the Middle East mean anything when I'm talking about American slavery and the building of generational wealth with Americans and how they're still being, how Black Americans are still being discriminated against today, and how they were literally legally, like explicitly legally discriminated against up until the 60s.
Well, the Three-Fifths Compromise is in the Constitution. It's not an amendment. It's in the Constitution. It was in there originally. It was one of the key compromises, the Three-Fifths Compromise.
It's like, why would I care about any other form of slavery? This is American history we're talking about. Man, that's American exceptionalism.
That is American exceptionalism.
And I also think it's interesting that they say that simply saying that it was harder for Black Americans to build wealth because they were not allowed to do it would somehow lead kids to believe that they need reparations and that it's going to indoctrinate them into that idea. And that's why it should be outlawed.
It's an insane omission, by the way, from their side, from their political ideology.
That's an insane admission.
Yeah.
That this is how they're kind of going about this whole thing. Yeah. Like, wow. The boldness here is crazy.
Yeah. Not great.
Not great.
Let me know if you know of any white people that felt so bad about themselves after learning critical race theory or whatever.
Yeah, when they were taught critical race theory in 9th grade, once they got into high school and they started learning critical race theory, they're like, holy fucking shit, oh my God.
Unironically, I only learned about critical race theory because of conservatives.
This is true.
I wouldn't have known the term.
I would have gone through my life wholly ignorant of the whole thing. And now my buddy's doing land acknowledgements before class.
And that's their fault.
And that's their fault. Like, oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
But that's not all that this executive order does.
Okay.
While keeping on the topic of like the systemic disenfranchisement of Black Americans throughout this country's history, up until today, really.
And restoring sanity, because that's what was in the executive order.
Of course, we're
sanity.
restoring sanity. Well, this is a part of restoring sanity.
Naturally.
Especially restoring. So aside from teaching history, this executive order also directs the Department of the Interior to restore markers, statues, and other memorials that have been, quote, improperly removed or changed in the last 5 years to perpetuate a false revision of history or improperly minimize or disparage certain historical figures or events. In other words, we are bringing back Robert E. Lee statues.
Some historical figures deserve disparagement.
I also never understood this either. Like, why are we venerating Robert E. Lee?
He was a fucking terrorist to the country.
Literally a terrorist.
A traitor.
Definitionally a terrorist.
A traitor, yeah, exactly. And a lot of Confederate statues went up in like the 60s.
Yeah.
Like
most Confederate statues went up during the civil rights protests.
As a way for local and state governments to say, like, you should know your place type thing. Like, we're reminding you who you are.
Also a well-known fact.
Yes.
That's why those went up. And it's like, obviously bad. Obviously bad that happened to intimidate Black people. Obviously bad that they were even up in the first place. But it's like, there was really no point in history where having up Confederate statues would have been like cool or chill. You know what I mean? I don't think they would have fucked with that during Restoration.
I don't fuck with it now.
Maybe they did, but if they did, they shouldn't have.
Well, yeah, and like the easy analogy is like there are no statues of Hitler anywhere in Germany.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you don't need a statue of an evil guy.
It's an important part of history, though. We got to put that up there and have like a plaque that says the cool things he did, I guess. Like, That's what they want. That's what these fucking... we have to have a Robert E. Lee High School. No, we don't.
He's evil.
Call that shit like high school. Call that shit school district high school. There you go. Call that county name high school. It does not have to be named after Robert E. Lee. We do not have to venerate the Confederacy. One of the great evils of American history.
Yeah, if only because like they were traitors to the Union.
Yeah.
Like they were terrorists. They were, an opposing army.
Even if that shit was about states' rights, they were still terrorists.
Yeah. Yeah, like obviously slavery is the issue, but then they say, "Oh, what, you want to take down George Washington?" Like you don't even go for it.
Go for it.
You don't even need to get into that argument. It's just like they were traitors. We have statues of people from an opposing army up in our country.
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up.
That's real fucked up.
I'm an American.
I am. Mm-hmm. You don't see us having statues of like, I don't know, King Charles the British guy. Because that'd be fucked up.
He was a bitch.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Oh man. Anyway, we got to move on to some extras, huh?
Yes, we do. We got some good ones, I think.
I think so too.
This first one, welfare for the wealthy. Has to do with private schools, but not necessarily school vouchers. So a bill passed the Iowa House that would force public schools to allow private school students to join their sports teams.
Why?
That's what I'm saying.
There's no reason for this.
This is just dumb.
You go to a private school.
Exactly. You chose to go to the private school, or your parents chose to take you out of the public school district and enroll you in the private school and pay money for you to go and get that private school education. Why should public schools be forced to allow you to participate on sports teams?
Yeah, you and your parents chose to take tax dollars away from the public school you would be playing for.
Yep.
And now you just want to be able to free ride.
And this bill is literally forcing public schools to take time and money and resources away from their students to help the more privileged private school kid continue their like high school athletic career. That's ridiculous. This is the taxpayers that go and pay taxes so that public schools can run and function are subsidizing some fucking rich kid being able to play soccer?
Yep.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Welfare for the wealthy.
Yeah, no, it's if you want to be able to play for their sports team, then go to their school.
Yeah.
Yeah, give them your per pupil tax dollars.
And
give it to the public school.
Another ridiculous stipulation in this bill is that this bill says that should a kid from a private school join a public school sports team, that private school kid cannot be charged a higher fee than what they would if they were a student at the public school. So statutorily, public schools cannot do anything to help offset the cost of coaching and diverting attention away from the public school students to the private school kids.
Not to mention equipment. Like, if you get into a sport you need equipment for, that shit's expensive.
Yeah.
Like if they're coming to a public school to play football or whatever, helmet, shoulder pads, all that stuff is very expensive.
Yeah.
And you got to pay for it. That's actually fucking absurd.
This shit is
gotta
fucking
love
stupid,
red states, man. Iowa moment.
It's like the bill is just designed for those who are already privileged in society to become further privileged by having public school students pay for it and suffer because of it.
Yeah. And you could almost make a case for this if the bill said, like, oh, they can be charged higher fees or they're responsible for paying for their own equipment or something like that. Yeah. You could almost justify it. It wouldn't be justified because of coaching costs and shit.
Yeah, because the time away from students.
But you can make a better argument for this. But this is just ridiculous. It's on the taxpayer's dime. We are going to force you to pay for this kid to play sports for this school, even though the tax money doesn't come to the school.
And it's like conservatives get upset when on the taxpayer's dime, you have to pay for somebody else's health care, for a senior's health care or a senior social security.
Even though that's already how insurance works.
Yeah, but when it comes to some kid who goes to a private school wanting to play baseball, that's totally fine to be draining your pockets and taking time away from your kid on the team.
Yeah.
Make it make sense, man. And in the bill, I think the like sponsor of this bill or some shit, one of the conservatives defending this bill in the article that I read got on there and said like, hey, I'm sick of it being like public. Why's it got to be like public schools versus private schools? We need to get like politics out of this stuff, brother. It's about funding. Not only have they taken funding away from the school by virtue of having their kid enter a private school and paid to have their kid enter the private school, they're just explicitly and implicitly taking funding away from that school.
Especially if they live outside the district, then the property tax isn't even going to the school.
That's crazy.
And I would imagine if you can afford to send them to a private school, you're probably not living near the public school.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because you can afford to live somewhere richer. So you're probably paying literally nothing to send your kid to play for this sports team.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that,
and it's
man.
like, we need to make it less political, dog. It's a political issue.
Exactly. It's quite literally taxpayer funding.
It is like directly related to politics and in the state.
You want to talk about government efficiency?
I saw a tweet the other day that was like, somebody needs to study the connection between poverty and fertility. It's like, dog, crack open a book, boot up Google Scholar. You know what I mean? Like, anti-intellectualism has done some work on this country, man. Holy moly.
Oh my God, man.
It's like one of the most well-studied phenomenons maybe ever in sociology, you think?
Like, you could absolutely find like a public access article.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Immediately. You can probably just Google it and you'll find a bunch of articles about it.
You can find an NIH resource about that one.
Yeah. It's like one of the most famous academic areas. You could find so many answers.
The poor gene exists on the same chromosome as the extra fertile gene, and that's how we got what we got right now.
Man, people need to lock in and try. Anyways, we got another story here in this one. It's a double whammy this episode. It's beyond parody.
Okay.
We're talking about Florida, and we're talking about, brace yourself, child labor. Child labor in Florida.
Oh.
This comes up like once a year for Florida.
It does actually.
Deregulating child labor laws. But the story here is that some of Florida's industries have been hit pretty hard because of all these deportations.
Oh my God.
And Governor Ron DeSantis has a solution for that gap in labor.
Get your kids in the fields, baby. Oh my God. Them Florida oranges ain't gonna pick themselves.
From The Guardian, quote, a bill that progressed this week through the Republican-dominated state Senate seeks to remove numerous existing protections for teenage workers and allow them, in the Florida governor's words, to step into the shoes of immigrants who supply Florida's tourism and agricultural industries with dirt cheap labor.
You can't. That's not even like a positive spin. That's not even like trying. We're gonna enslave kids. These immigrants that come over are exploited for their dirt cheap labor. We also kicked them out, by the way, and made their lives even worse. Now you can experience that after 6th hour.
Well, here's more quotes from Ron DeSantis. Quote, Ron DeSantis also said, quote, what's wrong with expecting our young people to be working part-time now? That's how it used to be when I was growing up. And then he also said, quote, why do we say we need to import foreigners, even import them illegally, when teenagers used to work at these resorts? College students should be doing all of this stuff.
Man, fuck, I got a fucking Algebra 2 test tomorrow. I gotta brush up on logs, but I also gotta put in a fucking 8-hour shift after school at the orange farm. What do I do? How do I figure this out? Oh man, fuck.
Oh man, the loom demands more children.
Man, my SATs are coming up. I really gotta study for those so I can get into college, since that's the best way to like increase my generational wealth and jump a class, but fuck, man, I gotta go get these peaches.
Hungry steel loom demands another kid. Now
you see their tiny fingers.
They can fit inside.
Really get in there. So.
An adult man can't fit inside.
There's a practical argument for what's going on here that I think we've let wokeness take us away from.
It's funny that Ron DeSantis brings up college age students, because the bill would, quote, permit unlimited working hours without breaks for 14 and 15-year-olds who are schooled at home or online, and allow employers to require 16 and 17-year-olds to work for more than 6 days in a row.
There's gonna be a significant amount of fucking parents in Florida who are doing unschooling, who are really just sending their kids to work at the fucking farm.
Yes.
Just, oh, sorry, you got a 12 at the farm today. You're learning a lot of real skills. That's what the job market actually means. What the fuck do you need algebra for?
Uh-huh.
The bill unlimited working hours is goddamn insane.
And they want to deregulate the break requirements for kids. Yeah. 14 and 15
no water breaks either, by the way.
The bill would also allow teenagers to work overnight shifts on school nights.
Hey man, I noticed that you're looking like really tired now, but I need you to pay attention to this lesson. Like, what's going on? Is everything okay at home? Oh, actually, I didn't make it home last night. I had to go to the fucking farm and help milk these goddamn cows I had to work third last night at the fucking farm.
Yeah, what the fuck? What's the kid's sleep schedule at that point? Like 3 to 10?
Yeah, I know I'm in high school, and it's like quite literally the most important time in my life to be getting adequate sleep, maybe even more than the regular 8 hours. But fuck, man, I gotta put in this third shift here. I'm actually working a double tonight after school.
And like Ron DeSantis says, this is how it was when I was growing up. I don't believe you.
I don't believe you. I bet you didn't do shit when you grew up.
But maybe you got a job at McDonald's. But like that was not that demanding.
Motherfucker did not work on the farm. Motherfucker did not do immigrant labor with him showing up in his white ass boots to the floods. You know what I'm saying?
That's like assuming he wasn't just from a rich family, which I actually don't know.
And if he did, he's talking about resorts. He worked at a fucking country club. I bet he was a fucking caddy.
Yeah, man. And it's like that's presupposing that we care about like cultivating a quote unquote work ethic.
Yeah.
You send kids this young to work, it's just exploited labor.
You know what cultivates a great work ethic? Like doing your homework on time.
Yeah.
Like doing your homework, figuring out how to balance responsibilities between extracurriculars, not work, but like clubs and sports and shit, and doing homework and getting good grades.
Yeah.
That builds a lot of responsibility and work ethic, actually. It's just like a different kind.
And it builds like social skills and shit. That's good.
A lot of people think the only work that's real is like physical labor, and it's going to kill us as a country.
No, literally. Like, I don't, like Ron DeSantis says this is like how it used to be or something like that. I don't see how you could fucking go to high school at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Be done with high school at 2:30 in the afternoon, maybe participate in sports, and then go work a third shift. Like, you can't survive on that schedule.
Well, I mean, and it's not going to be the kids who are in sports doing that. It's going to be the poorest kids who are already the most likely to either not graduate high school, but are not even go on to college or get like a career that can sustain themselves in the future, that'll just get set off track even earlier because, I don't know, even if they can stomach the hours and the physical labor, fucking $2 an hour is going to get them feeling good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you're young, you're dumb. That's so crazy. And it's like, get it back to how it used to be. Kids used to get stuck in looms and die. Like,
exactly. And that's why I said a hungry steel loom demands another child.
We used to have to fucking pause production. There used to be production delays because they had to clean the kid out of the loom. Like, we moved away from this for a reason.
And it's like, not to mention that, of course, like 14 and 15-year-olds, because they don't know shit, because they're literally children, they're less likely to stand up for themselves in the workplace. Yes. They're more likely to just do whatever the boss says. Shit. It's a very easily exploitable scenario.
I'm 24 and I don't even like standing up for myself in the workplace.
Honestly, and you can pay kids, at least in Michigan, I think you can pay people that are under 18 like half the minimum wage.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's worse in Florida, right?
Yeah, you could probably pay them nothing.
Yeah, probably just like slave labor.
Tipped labor. you finish your shift on the farm and you flip your iPad. you flip the iPad looking at the Tyson Chicken Company farm owner, the corporate farm owner, and you say and you point, and then maybe sometimes you trick them and you put the 30% on the right side where the 20 left side where the 20 usually is, and that's how you get more money for the night. But then they quickly catch on.
But imagine like you're the one undocumented guy that the ICE raid didn't get. And you go to clock in at like your Florida job, your Florida agricultural job or whatever, and there's just like an army of teenagers next to you. And you're like, oh, I see what happened here. The Republican Party wants to deport immigrants and replace them with children in the fields. And it's like, it's already immoral that like, immigrants are exploited in this way.
And it's like, when we say the GOP wants your grandma to die cold in the street, there's like at least a level of abstraction there. There's no abstraction to that statement.
It's explicitly what he said, dirt cheap labor. He said, Ron DeSantis said, literally, dirt cheap labor. Just evil, man. I'm glad this guy will never be president.
What are you doing, man? Oh my God, holy shit.
Anyways, that's Florida.
That's Florida. Zooming back out to the federal government and the guy that pretty much kind of like co-runs the federal government, we got to talk about Elon Musk. Actually, there is a real story about Elon Musk this week, but because like we're one recording late and two, the episode's not coming out Wednesday, I feel like it's like we'll talk about it next week. Okay. You see what he's been doing with Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race? And
the election happens tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. So Brody offered $1 million to two people who like showed up to vote, and now he just did a thing where he's like, if you post a picture of you with the thumbs up next to the conservative, I'll give you $20.
Yep.
This should not be allowed.
Yeah.
Citizens United, already bad.
Well, at first it was, I'm going to give $1 million to 2 people who prove that they vote, which you can't do. That's bribery.
Yep.
And then he switched it to, I'll give $1 million to 2 people that sign this petition against like woke activist judges or something like that. And then that's what the sweepstakes was. But
okay.
And, like, he's dropped like $20 million on this Wisconsin Supreme Court race.
I hope he gets clapped.
I hope he gets clapped too. Susan Crawford, I think, was polling ahead. We'll see come tomorrow, or I guess Wednesday.
You know what? Let me just pull up the fucking tweet, because this shit was insane. He's just got more fucking money shenanigans going on when it comes to doing this. Just more versions of himself trying to bribe people.
Yeah.
He
fundamentally corrosive for democracy, by the way.
Yeah, on his own platform, and said, easiest money you ever made. You don't even need to be from Wisconsin. You just need to get people in the state to hold a picture of Team Schimmel, can be on a phone, device, or paper, or in one hand, and go thumbs up with the other hand. Every time you do that, you get $20, and they get $20, the person you got to take the picture. The goal is to build awareness about the election tomorrow, so this offer applies to today and tomorrow. And then he said this on a quote tweet, where he also said, you can make over $1,000 in one day just by getting out to vote in Wisconsin. Brother, you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
You should not be able to buy an election.
No, you shouldn't. Like, by these means.
Like, I know this is like a deeper I know this is a deeper problem with like American politics.
Yeah.
Especially like Citizens United, post Citizens United, super PACs, and all that kind of stuff. The wealthy have too much power over our politics. It has never been this explicit.
No.
This is remarkably bad.
It's like one thing when a billionaire like buys ads. Mm-hmm. A whole other thing when he's saying, I will give you $20 to post propaganda.
Well, like I said, Musk and his like army of super PACs and political action committees have dropped $20 million on this race. This is the most expensive state race ever, partially because of his involvement. Like, he is literally trying to buy a Wisconsin Supreme Court race. A Wisconsin Supreme Court seat to tip it back to the conservatives because a liberal won 2 years ago. I don't know if he has like some specific legal beef in Wisconsin, like with Tesla or some factory or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, he's trying to buy a judicial seat.
I mean, the whole administration has been beefing with the courts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now everybody hates the court.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah. So it's a bad position to be in. Real bad.
It is. It's bad. I don't like that at all. That should be illegal.
Yeah.
Bro should be thrown in jail for that.
Bro should be thrown in jail for that.
No due process.
I think you remember Ben Wickler? He was running for DNC chair. He said that what Elon Musk is doing is a crime, and that if he was governor, he would throw him in jail if Elon Musk ever set foot in Wisconsin.
That fucks.
That
guy should have won.
That's what people want to hear right now.
That is what people want to hear. Oh, my God.
I want to hear lock up the billionaire.
I do. Mm-hmm. And, you know, speaking of people that are calling out Elon Musk right now, I think we got a clip to roll.
Okay.
Elon Musk got his fifis hurt by Tim Walz today. Or the other day.
And that's gas.
And that is gas. And we're going to show you Elon Musk's response to Tim Walz coming out at a rally and, I guess, displaying the Tesla stock price crash and laughing at it. Objectively funny.
Objectively funny.
Objectively
Still
hilarious.
Going down last I saw. Let's take a look.
I mean, you had Tim Walz, who's a huge jerk, running around on stage with the Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half. And he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do.
An evil thing.
What a creep. What a jerk.
What a creep.
Like, who derives joy from that?
Fucking me, brother. If it is fucking evil to make fun of Tesla stock price crashing, throw me in Arkham.
Oh, man.
Throw me in Arkham, brother.
I'm going to the lowest pit of hell.
I can put me in fucking Rikers Island.
I'm going so low I'm finding Dante.
Absolutely.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
Chilling with Dante, traveling through Pandemonium. Paradise Lost is about me now.
Like, it's evil to laugh at the stock price going down when I'm actively dismantling the federal government and I'm trying to buy a Wisconsin Supreme Court seat.
What happened to legalizing comedy? What happened to legalize comedy?
Yeah. He looked like he was going to cry.
I know.
Like, he's
what a
genuinely
creep. This dude loves calling people pedophiles that like criticize him or like insinuating some sort of sexual deviancy. Remember when he called the guy who did like the rescue operation on those kids in the mine in Thailand a pedophile?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. What a creep. What an evil thing to do.
I think he's had beef with Tim Walz ever since Walz made fun of his like jumping. Like, I think Tim Walz said he keeps jumping like a dumbass.
You think he saw our video?
In October.
That shit got 4 million views.
For my own personal safety, I hope not, but I will not stop laughing at how stupid Elon Musk is. I think for Musk specifically, the correct response isn't necessarily dealing with the arguments.
Yeah.
It's calling him stupid and lame.
And I mean, look at what it does to him.
I mean, fucking Assassin's Creed Shadows owned his dumbass this past week.
Oh my God, I know. Assassin's Creed Shadows owned his dumbass. Hassan owned his dumbass. His own daughter owned his dumbass.
Your family members out here, man.
They don't fuck with you, dog.
They don't. Man, the AC Shadows thing was good though.
That was really good.
That was really appreciated. They got his dumbass.
What did he even say about them? He's like, oh, Hassan something sold out.
Hassan posted an ad saying like, I'm gonna play the game on stream. Go buy it here, whatever. And then Elon Musk said like Hassan's a fraud or like I don't know. He said something bad about Hassan. Then AC Shadows responded like, did the guy who plays your Path of Exile 2 account tell you to say that? And that was the dirtiest ratio I think I've ever. It was like 700,000 likes on the AC Shadows tweet.
Bro owns the platform.
Yes.
You ratioing bro on a platform that he owns? That shit is crazy.
Yeah, that was one of the most diabolical ratios I've ever seen.
And then the cherry on top is Tim Walz makes him cry.
Yeah, he's had a pretty bad week. Tesla stock price is dropping. I'm in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it. If that shit's evil, bro, I'm Lex Luthor.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to hit people that like firebombed Teslas with like terrorist charges or something like that.
Oh, I think I saw Pam Bondi say that.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Explicitly not terrorism.
Yeah.
Don't firebomb anything.
Just a bad thing.
Yeah. I condemn political violence.
I can't say it's not a crime.
Right. No, it is a crime. Like you'll get hit with the crime, but they're trying to exacerbate the severity of these crimes, labeling it a hate crime, labeling it terrorism. Like that feels pretty fash.
Exactly.
Not good.
Especially when it's all liberal on liberal violence. What are the conservatives? They should take a step back.
No conservative has had a car vandalized in this process. Not a single conservative.
Maybe one Cybertruck owner has had their car vandalized that was a conservative, but everybody else, it's just...
Everybody else is either just a liberal or bought it used.
Everyone else was already driving that shit around really embarrassed for the past, fucking 2 months.
Deservedly.
And then they see the vandalism and they're like, fuck, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah. My lease has got another year. What am I supposed to do?
It might even be Tesla on Tesla owner violence. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, we really don't.
We truly don't know. We have no idea, folks.
It has been funny seeing people tear off the Tesla logo and put a Honda logo or whatever.
That's
people have been trying to
Honda,
mask
objectively better car.
Oh yeah.
CRV gang
baby.
right here. Come on now.
The Teslas themselves don't look too bad. Like
no, they don't.
Like the regular cars.
The Model 3, I think, is what it is.
Yeah. Cybertruck's stupid and ugly.
Oh yeah, no, get that shit out of my face.
I think Honda just came out with a luxury electric car that actually looks more like a cyberpunky type thing.
Oh, for real?
And I was like, that's cool.
Shout out Honda.
That actually looks cool, but the Cybertruck looks dumb, like a PS1 poly render.
It does look like a PS1 render.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm gonna see that shit in heavy rain.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, what else we got here? We got Walz.
We got Mississippi getting rid of income tax. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I did not read this story. I just saw the headlines. That shit's dumb.
Too much is happening.
I just wanted to get on here and say that shit is stupid. A lot of conservatives are like, oh my God, this is so cool. We're going to be just like Texas. I don't know if I talked about it on this podcast, but I remember before I watched the Michigan State of the State, there was a Democratic consultant on Fox 2 who said, yeah, I really want to hear Gretchen Whitmer talk about getting rid of income tax. That shit is stupid. That's a non-starter for me.
There's a saying among a lot of southern red states, thank God for Mississippi.
Yeah.
Mississippi's the reason they're not the 50th state.
They about to have the most regressive tax.
Because Mississippi's 50 in everything. Uh-huh. Because it's they're the worst state to be in.
Mississippi is either gonna, I don't know, just get rid of teachers in general, or they're gonna make your alcohol cost 50% more. Yeah. And there's no in between. Even if I'm getting serious about policy wonkery bullshit, when you get rid of income tax, you got to make up that budget shortfall somehow. Uh-huh. Every single state that doesn't have income tax has a regressive excise tax that just hurts poor people more. We talked about this last year with Florida and Texas having the most regressive tax structure in the country. It's just worse the worse off you are.
Yeah, I saw that this was a mistake or I don't know, some form of deception at first, because I think lawmakers, when they passed it, didn't see that it said decimal point 85%, and I guess they thought it said 85%.
Okay.
And then it passed. I don't know if that's still, maybe they just decided to get rid of it entirely.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's a fucking stupid story, and there's too much else going on. I didn't have time for it.
That's what I'm saying, man. We got war plans that came out.
Yeah.
I
via group chat.
Via group chat.
I support it though.
Yeah, I
They're
do
cool.
low-key.
Lastly, next week we might talk a little bit about the New York City mayor's race if we have the chance.
We did want to talk
a
about it.
socialist is running, so
We did want to talk about it this week, but then too much other stuff happened.
Yeah.
But that is a race that deserves coverage.
He seems like a pretty cool guy. There's no reason Andrew Cuomo should be at the top of the fucking polling right now.
Like by a wide margin, too.
Yeah, so maybe we'll talk about like the polling and funding and policy positions and a little bit that kind of stuff next week. At least it won't be Eric Adams.
That's true.
Andrew Cuomo may be worse. Maybe worse.
Yeah.
Than Eric Adams, though.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we'll see what happens then. Hopefully this cool guy wins.
And it's just like New York and New York City specifically, a massive reputation for being, I don't know, a communist utopia.
Yeah.
They can't elect a mayor.
No, they really can't.
They can't fucking pick a mayor. I don't understand.
I think it's like a common trope that New York City always chooses a mayor that everybody hates.
Yeah.
Like
who do we have before Eric Adams? Was it Bill de Blasio?
Yeah.
Didn't everybody hated him?
Everybody hated Bill de Blasio.
I don't know who was before de Blasio, but they had Giuliani. Like,
yeah. It's like, oh, you don't like Subway. My brother in Christ, you made the sandwich. Like my brother in Christ, you choose the mayor. Hopefully they get this guy, the socialist candidate's arguing for like city-run grocery stores.
That fucks. I know that's like a trope that people use against like socialists or like communists or whatever, and say that, oh, you only want one fucking bread option, one peanut butter option. If it's at the government grocery store, yeah. And I'll buy it and it'll be cheap and fit in my budget.
And I don't need like the branding on the outside, even though it's the same thing.
That's just like Aldi.
I don't know the economics of that. I'll have to like look into it whenever we cover this guy, but like sounds like a good fucking idea.
It sounds like that fucks.
Yeah,
like,
if we could undercut Whole Foods.
If I don't got to worry about the fucking markup that's been going on with eggs, all these conservatives and all this chit chatter about how egg wholesale price has gone down. That shit's still $6.
And it's like I always hear that we can't blame grocery stores for high prices because like the grocery profit margins are razor thin.
Yeah.
What if you didn't need a profit margin?
What if you could take them away?
What if you could operate at a loss with taxpayer dollars? What if you didn't need to make money at all, huh?
And then that would force Walmart's prices down.
It would.
Pretty good.
State competitor.
Pretty good.
I would love to go in and buy some like Detroit City branded pasta or something.
Oh, that'd be so cool, especially if it had like that Detroit Tigers font on it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Or fucking it's got Jared Goff's face on it.
Come on, I'm there.
Partners with the city grocery store, fucking city store, Detroit
awesome.
Market.
I'd be there,
brother.
I'd be all over it. But that ends off the episode this week. I hope you don't leak any war plans in a group chat.
Yeah, I hope you don't get added to any group chats and then get hit with a Espionage Act violation.
Yeah.
That would suck.
I hope you, I don't know, lock in. Hopefully you don't live in Florida.
Oh my God. Hopefully you're not a minor and live in Florida.
Yeah, if you're living in Florida and you like have a kid, hopefully they don't get fed to the steel loom. It's hungry and demands more kids. Hungry steel loom. Anyways, that ends off the episode this week.
Whew.
We got to thank these wonderful people.
We do. We got to thank these wonderful, beautiful, excellent people.
These wonderful people who are dealing with a 1 day delay of the pod this week.
Oh my God.
And we love you so much.
So gracious in dealing with this as well.
There's almost a riot in the Discord over it, but it's fine.
I've gotta applaud them. You know what I'm saying? But special thanks to Caden Crow, Lord Tal the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Japlinski, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Tarotari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vasquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Newberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burritos, Cincy Alex, Joe Stentrum, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Samsica 1, Colleen Cutsbury, Yuck, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfish, and Ben Pennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Ted Cruz's boy toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cocker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Ellie N, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Dude Slayer, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Asmith, The Grotler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, In Hope of Giants, AK Gon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Tay Tay.
Fuck.
Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Cable Loyal, Anna Valina, KCC, Say Yes to Wes.
August, Particular Pigment, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ Sharp, Michaela Onesie, The Walls 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Particulon, Memfrez, Lauren, Uncrestmatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Dew Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fida Hussein, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Anaya, Kryal Bongi, That Art Dork, Sergeant Pookie, Connor Nix, Jordan T, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Kristen, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Seth Schmidt, Daniel Stock, Noah Sajas, Majo What, Ultra the Dragon, Mercy Boku, Dick Cheney and 6-inch Heels, Luke Wechter, Henry Kraggles, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon and for tolerating a one-day delay.
That's what I'm saying.
For our early listeners.
I'm so sorry, but just think about it this way. You're going to have that next episode so much sooner.
Yeah. And if you ever rioted about a lack of early episode by a day,
yeah,
I'd have to bust out like the less than lethal rubber bullets to put down the riot.
100%.
This is not a democracy.
100%. You guys don't understand. We're not running a country. We don't have the same responsibilities. We're damn near a PMC.
Uh-huh.
Private military corporation, baby.
Henry Ford put down strikes. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the model, Michigan boys.
Exactly. This is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship of the Hiddo boys.
That's right.
And we're going to treat it as such, but
it's not a dictatorship of the patrons. It's a dictatorship on the Patreon.
That's right.
Have a good week.
Thanks for listening.